This podcast of the Equine Forum is brought to you by the University of Louisville Equine Industry Program at the College of Business. It all begins in 15 seconds right after this word from our podcast sponsor.
The University of Louisville Equine Industry Program at the College of Business is now offering a graduate certificate, which can be completed in 15 or 30 weeks and be done as a standalone or used as 20% of your MBA. Classes at both the undergraduate and graduate level are forming now for August.
From the rail to your radio, this is the Horse Racing Radio Network.
Thundering Blue in the center, tackled by Desert Encounter, and Desert Encounter ranges up. Desert Encounter on the outside and Thundering Blue, and Desert Encounter full of run. Desert Encounter, Andreas Edson, he's won it. Great performance.
Down to the final 16th, Lazy Daisy's re-rallied. His worries dead game toward the inside, but it is Lazy Daisy in front coming for the wire, and Lazy Daisy won it.
They go to the final furlong, and she's just rolling and rolling with enormous strides. Oh, she's long gone, and Catch a Glimpse is going to absolutely demolish them. And Catch a Glimpse wins the Natoma hands down.
Welcome to the Equine Forum, presented by TwinSpires.
Tippin in front. They have a furlong to run, and she has turned them away. And she is going to make this her own personal playground. Tippin going on to win the Rico Woodbine Mile.
2 million, 550, 850 down to get him, to get him, to get him, to get him, 50, to get 50. Well, thank you. Anybody else? They're all in, all done. Him to get him 2 million, everybody happy. But to get 2 million here down to get him 550. Now have in the bank 2 million. Thank you both.
Now here's Mike Penna.
Good morning once again, everyone. It is post time for the show that launched a network. It is the Equine Forum, and it's all presented by TwinSpires right here on the Horse Racing Radio Network. Mike Penna, Baron of the Backstretch, happy to have you along for the ride right up until 11 a.m. Eastern on Sirius 216, XM 204, affiliates in Lexington, Louisville, and across the country, and of course streaming worldwide and podcast on our HRRN website at horseracingradio.net. And don't forget that all of our HRN shows are available for you to listen to anytime that works for you around your schedule, wherever you access your podcasts. Which of the three win-in-your-in races being contested at Woodbine later today is most likely to produce a Breeders' Cup winner in 7 weeks? As a matter of fact, 48 days, 4 hours, 26 minutes, and 11 seconds from right now. Which of those three is most likely to produce a Breeders' Cup winner? And that is our poll question for this morning, giving out early in the program here today. You can go to @HRN on Twitter, Horse Racing Radio Network on Facebook, or you can email the show, mike@horseracingradio.net, and let me know your thoughts. All three of the races that are win-in-your-in races are grade ones at Woodbine today. And all three, as you would expect, have attracted a number of talented runners. You have the Woodbine Mile, you have the Natoma, and you have the Summer Stakes. The two latter races are for the juveniles. One for the juvenile fillies, one for the juvenile boys. The most likely, in my opinion, is probably the Woodbine Mile. And I'll be curious to see if the voting on our poll question goes the same way. But number one, you have a proven Breeders' Cup winner in that Woodbine Mile field. You have Modern Games, who won last year's juvenile turf. Number two is the competition that Modern Games will be facing. There are some legitimate grade one level horses in this field. You have Ivar, who is second choice on the morning line behind Modern Games. He's a grade one winner. And he accomplished that feat, by the way, at Keeneland, where the Breeders' Cup will be held, 2 years ago when he won the Shadwell Turf Mile. He's also participated in each of the last two Breeders' Cup miles, finishing fourth in 2020 and third last year. And he's beaten only a combined 3.5 lengths in those two efforts. By the way, his trainer, Paulo Lobo, is going to be with me later in the show, 9:40 Eastern, in my Road to the Breeders' Cup segment. Really looking forward to that visit. First time in nearly 20 years of being on radio that I've had the chance to visit with Paulo Lobo, and I'm really excited for that interview later in the show. Also, Woodbine handicapper Jeff Bratt joined Bobby Newman on yesterday's Betting with Bobby show, and I'll bring you his analysis to kick off hour 2 at 9 o'clock Eastern. So a lot of Woodbine conversation, as you might expect, as we go down the road to the Breeders' Cup on this Saturday morning. So you have Ivar, and then you have Stroll Spite, also a Grade 1 winner, and in the very capable hands of dual Hall of Fame trainer Roger Atfield. Stroll Spite won the Grade 1 Maker's Mark Mile at Keeneland back in April, and let's not forget that Roger won his only Breeders' Cup race with Perfect Stroll in the 2011 Filly and Mare Turf, and yeah, you guessed it, Perfect Stroll just happens to be the dam of Stroll Spite. You believe in karma? You might want to take a look at Stroll Spite if all goes well and he makes it to the Breeders' Cup Mile. You also get the feeling that Wakanaka from the barn of Hall of Fame trainer Bill Mott is capable of breaking through in a race like the Breeders' Cup Mile at any time, and maybe that race is today in the Woodbine Mile. So I would have to give the edge to the Woodbine Mile as being the most likely of the 3 win-in-your-in races at Woodbine to produce a Breeders' Cup winner. The 2 juvenile turf races, well, they're a little bit harder to judge. We just haven't seen much from these 2 divisions yet. But in the summer stakes, the 2 main players, at least in terms of the morning line, are Mysterious Knight, the European shipper from the barn of Charlie Appleby, and Philip My Dear, the Canadian bred for trainer Kevin Attard. I don't think Mysterious Knight is the top 2-year-old turf horse in Europe, and although Philip My Dear is 2 for 2 to begin his career, I certainly don't think you can mortgage your house on him winning the juvenile turf in 47 days. And by the way, the only horse to win both the Summer Stakes and Breeders' Cup Juvenile Turf, Pluck, in 2010. Doesn't mean that the horse couldn't run second or third in that race and come back and win the Juvenile Turf, but the only horse to pull off that double was Pluck. Catch a Glimpse in 2015 is the only horse to win both the Natalma and the Breeders' Cup Juvenile Fillies, and it very well could come down to dual Hall of Fame trainer Mark Casse trying to pull off that feat again this year. Mark Casse, of course, the trainer of Catch a Glimpse. His Adora is 6-1 on the morning line today. But with a cleaner trip, looks more than capable of turning the tables on the morning line favorite, Cairo Consort, and certainly appears to have more upside than that rival. And while it seems like everyone else is still trying to figure out what they have with this group of juvenile fillies in the Natalma today, I think Casse knows what he has in Adora. Let's face it, he thought enough of this filly to bring her to Saratoga and run in the Grade 3 Schuylerville after she broke her maiden on the synthetic at Woodbine. That leads me to believe he's held her in pretty high regard from the start. But is that enough to sell you on the Natalma being the most likely race at Woodbine today to produce a Breeders' Cup winner? I still think it's the Woodbine Mile, but let me know your thoughts. You can do that at HRRN on Twitter, Horse Racing Radio Network on Facebook, or you can email the show, Mike at horseracingradio.net. Which of the 3 Breeders' Cup win-in-your-in races being held at Woodbine today is most likely to produce a Breeders' Cup winner? Big day at Churchill, too. You have 5 stakes races. 3 of those are graded. The Locust Grove, the Pocahontas for the 2-year-old girls, and the Iroquois for the 2-year-old boys. Those, of course, on the main track. There is no turf racing during the September meet again at Keeneland, or at Churchill. I'm going to be joined by Churchill publicity manager Kevin Kerstein coming up at 8:35 Eastern to preview those races. And week 1 of the Keeneland September sale is in the books. You heard coming out of the Open, 1 of 30 horses to top $1 million in the first 4 sessions. And much like the Fasig-Tipton Saratoga sale, the previous high marks were shattered through the first week of that Keeneland September sale. What a sale. Kip Elser from Kirkwood Stables is going to join me at 8:15 Eastern to look back on the first week and look ahead to what you might expect for the rest of the sale and throughout the year, too. He'll talk about the industry as a whole. James Scully is with me at 10 o'clock Eastern with the TwinSpires Triple Play. Kurt Becker takes you on his weekly stroll through racing history at 10:20. And I Ask, They Answer with Dale Romans and Tim Wilkin coming up at 10:30. So here you go. I'll set the lineup for you one more time because we kind of bounced around in that opening segment. Kip Elser coming up in just a couple of minutes after this first commercial break to talk about the Keeneland Sale. Kevin Kerstein from Churchill Downs at 8:40. 9 o'clock, it's Jeff Bratt, who joined Bobby Newman yesterday. You'll hear him handicap the big races at Woodbine today. 9:20, Unsung Heroes presented by Woodbine. 9:40, I go down the road to the Breeders' Cup with trainer Paulo Lobo, getting ready to saddle Ivar in today's Woodbine Mile. The TwinSpires Triple play at 10 o'clock. Kurt Becker stroll through racing history at 10:20, and I ask, they answer with Dale and Tim at 10:30. All ahead. Very busy morning yet again here on the Equine Forum, presented by TwinSpires on HRRN.
Race the TwinSpires, where you can unlock a $25 risk-free bet. Just use the code HRRN25 when you sign up. And if your first bet doesn't win, TwinSpires will refund your account up to $25. Wagering on the app is fast with free past performances, insider picks, and power plays every day you wager. TwinSpires. Download the app today to earn your $25 risk-free bet. Void where prohibited. For terms and conditions, visit TwinSpires.com. Must be 18 or older, 21 and older where applicable. For help with a gambling problem, call 1-800-GAMBLER.
The Royal Palm Meet is just heating up with summer thoroughbred racing at Gulfstream Park. Join us Friday through Sunday for heart-pounding racing excitement and delectable hospitality. Enjoy the races outdoors at our new Carousel Club, or cool off in a private suite, or our trackside restaurant, 10 Palms. For stake schedules, reservations, and ticketing, head to GulfstreamPark.com.
It's Super Saturday on September 17th as Woodbine Turf Racing takes center stage with 3 Breeders' Cup Challenge Series events featuring the $1 million Grade 1 Rico Woodbine Mile, the $500,000 Grade 1 Natalma Stakes presented by Johnny Walker, and the Pattison Summer Stakes, all on the famed E.P. Taylor Turf Course. Woodbine Racetrack, where the best of the best compete for the ultimate challenge. Win, and you're in. Wager Woodbine today.
Horse players, in 2020, Canterbury Park introduced a 10% takeout traditional 50-cent pick 5. That's the lowest takeout on the planet. This season, in addition to that low takeout pick 5, Canterbury offers a 10% takeout pick 4, beginning with the first race each day. Again, the lowest takeout in horse racing. Canterbury Park, we race Wednesday, Thursday, and Saturday at 5 p.m. Central and Sunday at 1. CanterburyPark.com, home of the 10% takeout.
Churchill Downs 14-day September meet runs now through October 2nd, with 11 stakes worth over $3.3 million in purses and maiden special weight purses at $120,000 and allowance races ranging from $127,000 to $141,000. These purses powered by the Kentucky Thoroughbred Development Fund. You are not going to want to miss the September meet at Churchill Downs. The meet will also showcase many horses preparing for the Breeders' Cup and the Grade 3 ACAC, a win and you're in for the Dirt Mile division, and the Grade 2 $400,000 Lucas Classic. For more information, visit ChurchillDowns.com.
Learn the business of horses in the world's only accredited equine business program, the University of Louisville Equine Business Program. The University of Louisville has a legacy of excellence educating and developing industry leaders for over 35 years. Classes are taught by industry experts in state-of-the-art facilities located in the heartland of America's equine industry. The University of Louisville Equine Business Program. When it comes to horses, we mean business. For more information, visit business.louisville.edu/equine.
This is Wesley Ward. I'm the Conqueror of Royal Ascot. I listen to HRRN.
You're listening to the Equine Forum on HRRN, presented by TwinSpires.
Mucho Gusto travels well now. He's 3 wide and he's edging up toward the top 2. Diamond Oops is 4th. Higher Powers under pressure. And here comes Mucho Gusto. And they're into the stretch. And Mucho Gusto is taking the lead. Mucho Gusto comes to the 8th pole, opening up to lead by 4. And back into second is Mr. Freeze on the inside. Then Bodie Express, Diamond Oops, War Story running on late. Mucho Gusto in the Pegasus World Cup. He won it by 5 lengths. Mr. Freeze was second. War Story was third. Diamond Oops finished 4th. And the final time was 1 minute, 48.85 seconds.
Welcome back to the Equine Forum, presented by TwinSpires here on the Horse Racing Radio Network. Mucho Gusto, a huge win in the 2020 Pegasus World Cup at Gulfstream Park. Larry Colmus had the call. Very, very impressive. Mucho Gusto going through the Kip Elser consignment at Kirkwood Stables and going through his program. And there has been a lot of successful horses that come through that Kip Elser program. Mucho Gusto, by the way, also a graduate of the Keeneland September yearling sale before Kip got his hands on him. And Kip is with me now here on HRRN. Kip, good morning.
Good morning, Mike. Great to be with you. Yeah, that was a fun day. We were actually at the yearling sale in Karaka in New Zealand while we were watching that. We were jumping up and down and hollering. They didn't know what we were watching.
You know, look, Mucho Gusto, turned out to be such a tremendous racehorse, but he's not the only successful horse to come through your program. We're going to talk about that in a little bit. But I did mention the fact that you found him at Keeneland September. And let's just start by looking back on what we've seen for the first, 4 days or so of the Keeneland sale this year. It has just been gangbusters. I believe the total is like 30 horses selling for $1 million or more.
It's been just unbelievable. I'm not quite sure what the total is for horses bringing over $1 million, but there's just been an unbelievable demand. They're just starting now and book 3 today. And the first 2 days are theoretically the best days, but they're gonna have a gangbuster sale today and tomorrow with book 3. Like you say, 30 horses over $1 million. It's hard to believe how much people want to own a racehorse right now, but purses are good, and we are, in a lot of ways, finally showing people how to have fun at the game.
Yeah. How much, I'm glad you brought up the purses, because I've always said that is something that can really bolster the yearling sales, the 2-year-old and training sales. Look, if people buy a horse and they know that there is a legitimate opportunity to get a return on their investment, Kip, I think they're more apt to spend money at the sales. Is that true?
Oh, absolutely. And I think, not too many people are coming in thinking they can really make money at this game. But as long as they're convinced that they can get a fair shake, and we've got lots of new rules coming down that give the consumer, if you will, the horse owner, a fair shake, and I would call it, more than making money, I would call it limiting what they have to spend to have their fun. Then they're encouraged to go ahead and buy horses and go on and have some fun with it.
We saw strong results at the Saratoga sale. As a matter of fact, record results at the Fasig-Tipton Saratoga sale back in August, and now we see this happen in week 1 at the Keeneland yearling sale. What does that say, Kip, about the current state of our industry, maybe as a whole?
Well, I think, obviously, and, there's plenty of press about the various problems we have and implementation hiccups with HISA and everything else. But step back a step, and overall, the game is very, very healthy, and there's people that have been in it for a while that want to play harder, and there's new people coming in all the time that want to play.
Yeah, it's a great sign. I love to see it. I love to see, all of the different people that get involved through partnerships and those types of things. And it's just a really good time to be getting involved in horse racing. And a lot of it has to do with those purses that are continuing to increase, not just here in Kentucky, but certainly in New York and in other places around the country and around North America. Kip, let's talk about you for just a minute here. Your success over the years, and I played that clip of Mucho Gusto. We touched on him a minute, but there have been others. Coal Front certainly comes to mind. But if you go back even further, names like Alphabet Soup, for example, jump out to me. How have you been able to do this for so long?
Just keep getting up and having fun with it. That's, you know, if I get to where I'm not enjoying it anymore, I'm going to go do something else. I still love it, and that's the key. I loved it when I was a kid getting started. I still do.
You know, there is so much more to just, you know, buying and selling horses when you think about Kip Elser and the team and Kirkwood Stables. You have to, when you're involved in this business, Kip, you have to wear an awful lot of hats. And I think even more so now than back 10, 15, 20 years ago. So tell me about all of the different things you have going on.
Well, yes, we are best known for our pinhooking and 2-year-old preparation. We have always selected yearlings and older horses for people to go into their racing stable. We've managed racing partnerships with small groups of friends and friends of friends. We've done some breeding partnerships with, you know, in this game you have to take the opportunities where you can find them, and we've been lucky enough to be able to jump in on some situations whenever they present themselves.
Yeah, names like Chess Chief and Tom's Ready and Splashy Kisses, horses that you've had a hand in selecting and picking out. And that's just, again, one hat that you have to wear. You and I have talked several times, you know, kind of off air over the years, Kip, and I know one thing that you truly enjoy is getting the opportunity to introduce new people to the game. So tell me a little bit about that.
First of all, at home, we've been lucky enough to have, over the years, just a lot of young, enthusiastic, smart, hard-working people come through there, and it's a treat to get these young people in and get them started with the basics and watch how their different ideas evolve as situations change. And you know, there's quite a few young people around that have started with us, and we have a lot of fun watching young people develop and learn as they go, and they go on to bigger and better things as they go. And the same thing with people that come in and want to start buying, owning a horse and going down that path. It's been a lot of fun over the years, just teaching people the basics of the game and starting off as a, you know, I say for quite a lot of, for horses and for people, we've had a pretty good high school over the years, and we're proud of all of them when they've gone on to the college of the big time.
Yeah, talking with Kip Elser from Kirkwood Stables, you should be proud of that, Kip. There's no doubt about it. When you start working with younger people and start getting them involved in the sport, and you referred to it as, you know, a great high school program, and I love that. Do you find that you almost become inspired because of some of the fresh ideas that they bring to the table too?
Oh, absolutely.
Yeah.
You know, you know, if you only hang around with people that have been doing it as long as I have, we might get a little stale, and there's always a fresh viewpoint coming in, and I just have a great time watching and listening and learning, and from young and old, you learn every day you play this game.
All right, let's talk about that for just a minute then. How much has the environment of this industry changed, and I guess in what ways, since you first got involved in the business, and how have you had to adopt and evolve what you're doing now as a business?
Well, the first major change is there's a lot less horses out there.
Yeah.
So, you know, this year's crop will be under 20,000 for the first time. So, you know, the importance of each individual horse is magnified. Big outfits in the old days could go through a lot of horses to get to the ones that are going to climb to the top. You can't do that anymore. The labor has changed dramatically. Along with less horses, there's also less people that want to work with horses. Everything is more expensive. Training facilities are designed now to be much more labor efficient. Advances in veterinary science have gone leaps and bounds ahead of the very basic stuff that we knew, whether it's a surgery, orthopedic surgery in particular, or preventive medicine, or various different therapies. We know much more about these animals than we ever did before. So there's just been lots and lots of changes over the years, and we all need to adapt to the changes as they come along.
Kip, you started mentioning the fact that you're probably best known as somebody who's had a lot of success buying yearlings and doing the pin hooking thing, but to hear you talk during this conversation, you realize how many other things that you are involved with. And I can imagine that as the environment has changed, as you just pointed out, that you've had to kind of incorporate some new services and some additional things into your resume.
Well, we've always done other things.
Yeah.
And we've always been willing and able to do other things. It's just we haven't been particularly well known for doing them. But now we're branching out a little more and basically expanding the menu of our services.
I can't, branching out a little more. I think that's probably an understatement, Kip, because I have tried a couple of times to get a hold of you, and, he's in England. He's in Australia. You are all over the world, my friend.
Well, racehorses will take you anywhere in the world you want to go. And, another thing that Ellen and I really enjoy is going to different places, different cultures, different ways of doing things, and we had a great trip to Arcana in France this summer. Maybe going back in October. We've had to cut back on going to South Africa and New Zealand for a couple of years, but looking forward to getting back over there this year or next year. It's just, it's fascinating. It'll keep you learning and doing something new and having fun. And if you do all those things, you're probably making money too.
Yeah. Kip Elser taking you inside what it is like to be on that side of the business, the person who is advising and the person who is buying and selling horses and the person who's traveling all over that's what Kip and his team have done successfully with Kirkwood Stables for so many years, and that training facility that they have at their farm is fantastic. Before I let you go, Kip, I have to ask you about HISA. And the different things that are being implemented. Earlier you talked a little bit about some of the slow rollout to some of those programs, but one thing with HISA that is going to be emphasized once this is in place is kind of the horse welfare and the aftercare side of things, and I know that is something you have been a massive proponent of for many, many years.
I've always done a lot with horse welfare and especially locally in South Carolina, we started a retirement farm, and we also started a vocational school at the prison along with that. And that's just a vitally important part of our business for the horses, for our own consciences and peace of mind, and for the public perception of what we're doing. So we're pretty involved in all of that and firm believers in it. HISA, HISA, whatever we're saying is, it's the, it's the extension of consumer protection law. And there are going to be some hiccups to work out. But we all have to agree that this is the direction we're going to go. And if there's things that aren't right about it, if there's things that are wrong, if there's things we can do better or more efficiently, then we need to work to change those parts of it, not throw the baby out with the bathwater and be against the whole project. It will take some time, but it's going to work.
Kip, I'll ask you one final question. Where do things go from here with you, with your operation, with Kirkwood? Where do you see things going in the next 5 to even 10 years, for example?
I think with what horses cost these days, I think we're going to do more partnerships. Even people with a substantial amount of money to play the game want to spread their risk with these numbers. And for people with smaller pocketbooks, the entry fee has gotten so high that they are in a lot of ways better off starting off in whether it's a small friend of friends partnership or a bigger, more inclusive group of people. But and I think a lot of people are learning that when you do have success, it's fun to share it. So I think that's the wave. I mean, not that it's brand new. It's, partnerships have been building for quite a long time, and there's outfits out there that do a tremendous job with it. That's probably what we're going to do more with. Other than that, it's just in various areas, whether it's yearlings or weanlings or horses of racing age, just trying to find good value for the clients, find them a good horse, and go on and make some money and have some fun.
Well, Kip, you've been doing it for a long time, and I can't wait to see how you operate going forward as well. And I know the future is very bright, and I appreciate you spending some time to look back on that Keeneland Sale and look ahead to where we might be going as an industry as well. Kip Elser with Kirkwood Stables. Kip, all the best. Enjoy the rest of the sale, my friend.
Well, thanks, Mike. It's always great to talk to you.
All right, coming up next, I turn my attention to Churchill Downs. I'll welcome Kevin Kerstein to take a look at all of the big races coming up later today, including the Pocahontas and the Iroquois. That all comes your way right after this short break and your Legends of the Turf.
This is the story of a man who was unquestionably one of the very best in the annals of thoroughbred racing at plying his trade in the saddle. His accomplishments as a reinsman were not only noteworthy, but they were watermarks among the riding colony on 2 continents. The sands of the racing hourglass are poured back to the late 19th century to begin this odyssey. The subject of this dissertation first saw the light of day in Cadentown, Kentucky in 1883. He rode his first winter in Chicago in 1899 on a horse called Abenstroke, and he subsequently rode in this country with unrivaled success until 1903. In 1901, he piloted the winner of the Kentucky Derby on a horse named, perhaps fittingly, His Eminence, and the winners of the Latonia Derby, New Orleans Derby, and the Memphis Derby. In point of fact, in his abbreviated American riding career, he had but 4 Kentucky Derby mounts, but never finished out of the money. He won that classic in back-to-back years aboard the aforementioned His Eminence, and in 1902 with Allen a Dale. He was third while in the saddle aboard Thrive in 1900, and was second aboard Early in 1903. He rode 161 winners in 1901, a total absolutely unheard of in that day and age. He often said the very best horse he ever rode was McChesney, a horse conditioned by Sam Hildreth. He eventually had a great deal of trouble making American riding weights and opted to cross the big pond, so to speak, to ride in Europe, and there he experienced measured success until 1930. He first rode in Russia, where he won the Russian Derby twice and finished second in that event 4 times in 6 years, while under contract to Mr. M. Lazarev. From 1910 to 1912, he rode in Austria-Hungary for Prince Lubomirski. He then returned to Russia, where he rode from 1913 to 1917. He won the Russian Derby 3 years in a row, 1914, 1915, and 1960, for Leon Montchev, who at the time was one of the wealthiest men in the country. Our man left Russia in 1917 at the inception of that nation's revolution, being led by Messrs. Trotsky and Lenin. When he was to leave that country, he went to bid his friend what was to be a fond farewell. Many years later, in 1941, he learned that his friend and benefactor, Mr. Montechev, was washing cars at that time for the Nazis in Paris. The story of our subject's escape from Russia in 1917 would provide more than ample fodder for Jean Le Carre novel. Many times before escaping to Poland, he crawled on his hands and knees for hours to avoid being shot at by the Bolsheviks. In 1920, he left Warsaw for Paris, and he wound up there riding for Mr. Montechev until 1926. He rode his last race in 1930 at the age of 47. Compositely, he rode over 2,300 winners in this country and in Europe, and he once rode 8 winners out of 11 mounts in Moscow. The vast majority of his victories were scored aboard 2-year-olds because he always hustled them out of the gate, rated them, and then saved something for the finish. European riders, on the other hand, went hell-bent for leather throughout and had nothing left at the end. He always felt, although never able to explain why, that collectively, Australian riders were the best. Our man turned to training in France in the 1930s with horses in training at Maison Lafitte near Paris. When the Second World War broke out, he was forced to disband his stable, and he turned his property over to the French government, which quartered 200 soldiers there. Then, after France's quick defeat, he was forced to quarter Nazi soldiers. On February 25, 1941, he began another portion of his international odyssey that brought him first to Spain, then to Portugal, and finally back to his native America. Having been in Europe for some time, he was fluent in French, German, and Russian, in addition to English. He passed away in 1941 at the nonagenarian age of 91, with not only fond memories of the turf on 2 continents, but with a cumulative riding record that by any measure, means, or standards has to rank among the all-time best. His story has the very fiber of what a legend of the world of racing is all about. He was Jimmy Winkfield.
Race the TwinSpires, where you can unlock a $25 risk-free bet. Just use the code HRRN25 when you sign up. And if your first bet doesn't win, TwinSpires will refund your account up to $25. Wagering on the app is fast with free past performances, insider picks, and power plays every day you wager. TwinSpires. Download the app today to earn your $25 risk-free bet. Void where prohibited. For terms and conditions, visit TwinSpires.com. Must be 18 or older, 21 and older where applicable. For help with a gambling problem, call 1-800-GAMBLER.
Can you hear it? The world-class thoroughbreds are racing at Remington Park. There's live racing now through December 17th. So don't miss all the action on the track and in the casino with big wins and great entertainment. Send your heart racing at Remington Park.
Hey everyone, it's the Baron with this week's North of the Border report presented by Woodbine Entertainment. Automatic Breeders' Cup berths are on the line as star-laden editions of the Rico Woodbine Mile, Pattison Summer Stakes, and Johnny Walker Natalma Stakes headline Saturday's outstanding card at Woodbine. The 26th running of the mile, worth $1 million and contested over the world-renowned E.P. Taylor turf course, has attracted an accomplished field of 11 hopefuls, with the winner earning a fees-paid berth to the $2 million Breeders' Cup Mile. The winner of the Natalma Stakes will earn a spot in the $1 million Juvenile Fillies Turf, while the winner of the Pattison Summer Stakes receives the same opportunity for the $2 million Juvenile Turf. The Woodbine Mile has attracted a formidable group, which includes Irish-bred Modern Games, a winner of last year's Breeders' Cup Juvenile Turf, two-time Canadian Horse of the Year Mighty Heart, and the defending mile champion, Town Cruise.
Now they're coming. AB's flatter after Town Cruise with Duke of Hazard. right down the outside, Ryder Comet. Olympic run to the center. Set piece is getting to work now. The leader remains Town Cruise. Town Cruise on the inside in front. The Cavalry Charge down the outside. Space Traveler and Ryder Comet. And Raging Bull, but Daisuke Fukumoto stole this year's Rico Woodbine Mile with Town Cruise.
In the 1 mile Natama, Cairo Consort, a 2-year-old daughter of Cairo Prince, will face 7 rookie rivals in the Grade 1 event, while 7 first-year stars, including the Kevin Attard-trained Philip My Dear, showcase their talents in the Grade 1 Pattison Summer Stakes. Attard won the 2001 edition with El Soprano, and he'll look to unbeaten Philip My Dear to add another summer title to his resume. First race post later today, 1:10 p.m. And that's your North of the Border report for this Saturday morning. For more updates and racing information, visit woodbine.com or follow along on Twitter and Instagram at Woodbine TV.
I'm 3-time Derby winning jockey Gary Stevens.
This is Rosie Napravnik.
Hi, my name is Sean Bridgerman.
Hi, my name is Alan Garcia, and I listen to Whole Racing Radio.
You're listening to the Equine Forum on HRRN, presented by TwinSpires.
Welcome back to the Equine Forum, presented by TwinSpires on this Saturday morning. Mike Penna, Baron of the Backstretch. Happy to have you along right up until 11 a.m. Eastern on what is a tremendous day of racing all throughout North America. 3 win-in-year-in races being contested at Woodbine. You have the big races at Belmont at Aqueduct, and you have some pretty good ones down at Churchill Downs in Louisville, Kentucky. And I am joined now by Churchill Publicity Manager Kevin Kerstein. Kevin, good morning, my friend.
Good morning, Mike. How you doing?
Doing great. You sound pretty good for a guy that can't be getting a lot of sleep right now, by the way.
The key word of, I guess, my next few months is caffeine. So I'm hopped up on caffeine right now, so I'm feeling great. Ask me about 3 o'clock, and I may not be feeling as good.
Congratulations on your new arrival, a new member to the family. Really exciting. I guess it's appropriate. We're going to be talking about some big juvenile races today, since you welcomed a youngster to the family.
Yeah, it's no sleep in the Kerstein household, but I'm glad I was able to welcome him just in time for to enjoy the second half of this racing year and leading up to the Breeders' Cup, and of course Derby 149 just around the corner, kicking it off today at Churchill with the Iroquois Stakes and the road to the Kentucky Derby.
Yeah, it should be a fantastic day. We're going to talk about that revamped road to the Kentucky Derby point system here in just a few minutes, but I do want to make sure we touch on the 5 stakes races that are taking place on this Saturday afternoon program. And, it begins, they're going to be run in succession, races 7 through 11, so 5 consecutive stakes races. It wraps up with the Grade 3 Pocahontas, but it begins with the $300,000 Open Mind Stakes. And this one, I know we're not talking about the graded stakes, and we're not talking about the top 2-year-olds and all those types of things that are going to catch a lot of attention. But this race here, Kevin, really is one of the more intriguing ones to me on the entire card, because it features a great showdown between those old rivals, Bell's the One and Sconson, meeting for the 8th time in today's Open Mind.
Yeah, it's always funny, especially here locally and nationally on this filly and mare sprint scene. You don't really see, many filly and mare sprint races throughout the country drawing big fields. And, it's just sort of a niche condition that we've seen over the last couple of years. And Bell's the One of Wisconsin have clashed, 7 times prior to this race. This will be the 8th renewal. Bell's the One has a slight lead over her rival 4-3, and she's a formidable favorite in this race. She's 6-5 on the morning line against Wisconsin, and they met last time in the Lady Tack, where Bell's the One got the better of Wisconsin, who was disappointing that day, finished 4th actually in the Lady Tack, and so they're meeting again. It's just a field of 4 with an early scratch of the 3 Chitara, but it's a fun matchup between those two. But you can't hold any thing over the head of Joyful Cadence and Club Car, who are also in this race as well. They're 2 very talented filly and mares in here too. So it's a very fun race to kick things off. It's an all-stakes late pick 5 sequence, as you mentioned. And, if you get bounced out of this race, if you try and single Bell's the One or Wisconsin and someone upsets, you can always wheel back in that late pick 4 sequence, which at this time has no early scratches or changes. So it's a fun sequence this afternoon and really kicks off with a fun rivalry with Bell's the One and Wisconsin.
Yeah, tremendous showdown there. And both Sconson and Bell's the One, 5-time winners over that Churchill main track. So we'll see who gets to, if one of those even gets to number 6 today. Like you said, there are 2 others in here that could play a role if either of the big 2 don't step up and bring their A game here later today. The Grade 3 Locust Grove follows that one as race number 8. This one 1 mile and a 16th on the main track. It's for the 3-year-olds and up fillies and mares. Tell me about the Locust Grove.
Yeah, Invutant and Crazy Beautiful, 2 of the Kenny McPeak stablemates in this race. They sort of seem to loom large to a lot of people that I've talked to. They're, both graded stakes winners and, both, I think, coming into this race probably, targeting a fall campaign. Invutant has won the Fall City the last 2 years, which is part of the fall meet. So I don't know if we'll see, either of these 2 maybe contest the Longines Distaff for the Breeders' Cup, but they may be, players later on in the fall meet here at Churchill Downs. Played Hard, who was a winner at Saratoga last time out for Phil Bowers, also in this race. He had a tremendous meet at Saratoga, and his barn is firing on all cylinders. And Lil Tootsie, who won the Groupie Doll Stakes at Ellis Park last month, is also in this field, and she's coming into this race in the best form of her life, and she's 8-1 on the morning line. So it's a very fun 38th renewal of the Locust Grove, $400,000 purse, Grade 3 for the fillies and mares. A fun field in here. This kicks off the late pick 4, and Played Hard and Crazy Beautiful, the 2 shortest prices on the morning line. I tend to see how the board plays in here. I think Lil Tootsie's going to take some action off that 8-1 price. I think Invutant may take some action off that 5-2 price. So a very competitive field of 6 fillies and mares here in the Locust Grove.
And that brings us to the first of 2 graded stakes races for the juveniles. This one for the 2-year-old boys, the Grade 3 Iroquois. It's race number 9, post time 4:55 Eastern. Really intriguing showdown here. You have Damon's Mound, who is undefeated, is a graded stakes winner, 2 for 2. And you have Echo Again, who just broke his maiden impressively, ran off the screen by 6 3/4 lengths, looked really good doing it. Echo Again, even though he's not a stakes winner, and only making a second start, he's the 2-1 morning line favorite in here, Kevin.
Yeah, I think we're going to try and see the power of Saratoga maiden wins in this race. And, veteran odds maker Mike Battaglia tabbed him at 2-1. And he's trying to take the same path that Major General did last year when he won the Iroquois. He won this exact same maiden special weight at Saratoga and then came and won by a head in the Iroquois last year. And so he's trying to take that same path. It's tough for any horses, especially 2-year-olds, to break their maiden going 3/4 and then come and run 2 turns for the first time. But none of these horses in this field have run 2 turns for the first at all in here. And so they've run that turn and a half at Ellis, a couple of them, but no one has run a true 2 turns in here. And Damon's Mound was as impressive as can be, breaking his maiden at Churchill Downs in the spring, and then went up to Saratoga. There was a little controversial race riding in that Saratoga special where there was some bumping at the top of the stretch, and with Gulfport, and he ended up getting the better of him that day by 3 1/4 lengths. Trina Michelle Lovell and I are pretty good friends, and I rarely talk to her about her horses. We usually talk about anything else in the world that we want to complain about. And we talked about Damon's Mound yesterday, and I asked her, I said, Michelle, do you think he can get 2 turns? And I've never heard her more confident say yes. And so that's really exciting about this prospect, a son of Gervin, who I think he's probably the reason why Gervin relocated from Florida to Kentucky, because of how impressive he's been so far. And the Gervins have been running off the screen to start as a freshman sire. He's a homebred for Michelle and Cliff Love, who are coming in town from Florida for this race. So it's a fun renewal of the Iroquois with Echo Again and Damon's Mound. Don't, sleep on Jace's Road either for the Outlaw Family Stables and West Point Thoroughbreds and Brad Cox. This horse broke his maiden down at Ellis Park going 3/4. The Outlaws have won this race 3 times, and including not this time, who we've saw in the Breeders' Cup and then come back and have a very successful stud career. Dennis Moment, another one. So the Outlaws sort of point a lot of their horses when they were with Dale Romans to this Iroquois. This horse is trained by Brad Cox. He looms large to Jason's Road. He's a son of Quality Road out of a Silver Deputy mare. So a fun field of 9 that's signed on for the Iroquois. The kickoff of the road at the Kentucky Derby, 10, 4, 3, 2, 1 points awarded to the top 5 finishers for that Kentucky Derby.
Yeah, that is one of the tweaks to this year's Road to the Derby system. Points awarded all the way down to the 5th position, the 5th place finisher in those designated races. And Kevin, in case you're wondering, 231 days, 9 hours, 55 minutes, and 40 seconds away from the Run for the Roses.
John Asher would be very proud of you for that countdown. I get yelled at by Darren if I start the countdown, before 100 days, and there's always a countdown going on. I walk into the office, there's a countdown clock. But John Asher always had it in his head, and I know he would be proud of that countdown being thrown around this morning on the Horse Racing Radio Network.
Never too early to start talking Derby, and certainly it kicks off with that Iroquois today. All right, race number 10, before we get to the Grade 3 Pocahontas for the 2-year-old fillies. Race 10 is the Louisville Thoroughbred Society Stakes, 6 furlongs on the main track. Who are the major players in here?
Isolate for trainer Tom Amos and the Reeves Thoroughbreds is entering this race in probably the best form of his life. He's really turned it around to start his 4-year-old year. He's the son of Mark Valesky, 7-5 on the morning line. A very impressive 6-length winner of that restricted tail of the Cat Stakes last time out at Saratoga. He also won the Work All Week Stakes at Hawthorne back in June, and so he's going to loom large in here. Necker Island for Chris Hartman, who was an unfortunate disqualified and placed third last time out in the Chesapeake Stakes down at Colonial. There was a little bit of bumping in the stretch that day. He probably was best, but he did interfere, and so he was disqualified, or else he would be entering this race with a 2-race win streak, sort of like your morning line favorite Isolate. I think these are the two main players in here. Don't leave off maybe Top Gunner and Miles Ahead. These two horses are some 3-quarter specialists in this race, and Maniwa, who was a supplement for Wayne Catalano, breaking from the rail. I talked to Wayne yesterday. He said this horse is doing as good as he could ever be. He's maybe not having the class of a horse like Isolate or Necker Island, but the price could be right on Maniwa. It's a fun race for the second running of the Louisville Thoroughbred Society. Race 10 kicks off a late double, a full field in this race of solid 3-quarter specialists.
All right, and that brings us to the final of those 5 consecutive stakes races at Churchill later today. By the way, visiting with Kevin Kerstein, the Churchill publicity manager. Race 11 is the Grade 3 Pocahontas for the 2-year-old girls. And listen, D. Wayne Lucas, throughout his Hall of Fame career, has reminded us time and time again never to count him out. He did it in the Kentucky Oaks earlier this year, and now here he is with a horse called Naughty Gal, the 2-year-old filly, who could give Wayne his 4th win in the Pocahontas. And if he can pull it off, he will stand alone atop the all-time list of trainers to win the Pocahontas. He's currently tied with Dale Romans and Pete Vestal. So what do you think? Does Naughty Gal put the coach on top?
I talked to Pete Vestal this morning, and I said, I think the coach is going to get you. He's going to, and Pete didn't even realize he was the all-time leading trainer in the Pocahontas. He thought he was passed already. But it's funny I saw the morning line come out for this race, and Naughty Gal was just such a head scratcher in that spin-away last time out, and so maybe it's going to, tend to shy some folks away from her. But she was as impressive as could be when she broke her maiden here by 9 1/4 lengths back in July, and then went and ran in the Adirondack at Saratoga, and was the heavy favorite in that race and got the job done on the lead. And so, if she doesn't get too much pressure on the front end, I think she's probably the one to beat in this race off of the class test alone. You also have Just a Warrior, who's undefeated in here, won the Ellis Park debutante last time out for John Ortiz. She's the morning line favorite at just 4-1, a full field of 12 2-year-old fillies for this 54th renewal of the Pocahontas, and that tells you how competitive this race could be. I don't know if there's going to be the winner of the Kentucky Oaks in this race, but it is a competitive gambling race in here. Boss Lady Bailey at the rail, who scratched out of an allowance event just yesterday at Churchill, and John Ortiz and the Hooties Racing decided to enter here, which is a very interesting move because she would have probably been a solid a choice in that allowance field, and she's entering in this race this afternoon. So it's a fun field in the Pocahontas. Again, this kicks off the road to the Kentucky Oaks with 10, 4, 3, 2, 1. I got to get used to saying for the top 5 finishers in the Pocahontas, but get you kicked off on that road to the Kentucky Oaks and get some owners dreaming of that first Friday in May.
Kevin, we're literally down to about a minute and a half here before I have to get to this next commercial break, but give me the capsulized version of some of the changes outside of now awarding points down to the top 5 finishers. That is a change to the Road to the Derby, Road to the Oaks series this year. Give me some of the other changes that we can look forward to seeing.
Yeah, I modeled some of the points with that top 5 finishers. I wouldn't get too worried about it because it really, in the last few years, it wouldn't change the complexion of the Derby field. But what may is we've increased some of the points in the prep series with races like the LeCompte, the Southwest, the Withers, the Holy Bull, the Robert Lewis, the Sam Davis, all looking, obviously, for the best horses to show up in the starting gate on the first Saturday in May. And over the last few years, we've seen these races produce some of the top Derby contenders. And so it's getting these points to these horses earlier on in the year. And they've shown that we've seen a lot of top Derby contenders run in those races. So those points have been increased. The Breeders' Cup Juvenile, which will be at Keeneland, has been increased to 30 points this year. It was previously 20 points. So increasing that Breeders' Cup Juvenile. It kicks off the prep season. The Championship Series really stays the same. But again, awarding the top 5 finishers points for the Road to the Kentucky Derby and the Road to the Kentucky Oaks this year.
All right, Kevin, listen, man, appreciate the visit as always. Fantastic stuff. Enjoy the day. Good luck at the windows, and have a lot of fun.
Absolutely. Thanks for having me on, Mike, and best of luck, everyone.
All right, Kevin Kerstein, Churchill Publicity Manager here on HRRN. When I come back, I will get you ready for a loaded second hour of the program, followed by a loaded third hour of the program. I'll tell you all about it next. This is the Equine Forum on the Horse Racing Radio Network.
Hi, Tony.
Hey, Matthew.
There's a reason why Tony's Steaks and Seafood is my favorite restaurant. It's because I want to feel part of the family. Isn't that right, Tony?
That's right. There's a saying on the wall that I truly believe in. There's always room for one more at our table. We just want you to be part of our family.
And believe me, you will be. It's Tony's Steaks and Seafood right across from Triangle Park. Visit them at TonySteaksandSeafood.com.
Woodford Feed, where tradition merges with technology. Family owned since 1940 and providing exceptional customer service, Woodford Feed specializes in the highest quality feed, using only the finest ingredients to ensure optimal nutrition for your horses. In addition, Woodford Feed can help with all your farm needs, including field seed, fertilizer, and weed control. So whether your horse is sprinting around the racetrack or has a foal by her side, count on Woodford Feed to provide the quality nutrition necessary to perform at the highest level. Woodford Feed for Sales, Kentucky.
Have you heard the news about this year's Claiming Crown? The Breeders' Cup for claiming owners is moving to historic Churchill Downs for 2022, and it all takes place Saturday, November 12th beneath the iconic TwinSpires. 8 races, over $1 million in purses, plus KTDF funds for eligible horses. Requests for eligibility are due October 22nd. Don't miss your chance to participate in this year's Claiming Crown at Churchill Downs, Saturday, November 12th. Learn more at nationalhbpa.com.
In honor of all those we've lost to cancer and those still fighting and thriving, like basketball analyst and cancer champion Dick Vitale.
I want to beat cancer. I'm going to beat it. That's no doubt in my mind. I'm going to win this battle.
Defeating cancer will take all of us. Join our team to help fund game-changing research that saves lives. At the V Foundation, V is for victory over cancer. V is for victory over the odds. V is for victory over health disparities, victory over setbacks, victory over the unknown. V is for victory over giving up.
Don't give up. Don't ever give up.
Donate to the V Foundation to join our team and help save lives.
Cancer can take away all my physical abilities. It cannot touch my mind, it cannot touch my heart, and it cannot touch my soul.
100% of donations fund game-changing cancer research. Donate now to the V Foundation at v.org.
Hi, this is jockey Brian Hernandez. For me, there's no bigger thrill than crossing the finish line in front, and nobody captures the excitement of our sport like Horse Racing Radio Network. Each week, HRRN brings you exclusive talk shows, podcasts, and in-depth conversations with the biggest names in racing, jockeys, trainers, owners, and more. Plus, HRRN is committed to helping disabled riders through their support of the PDJF. So climb aboard a winner today by visiting horseracingradio.net.
This is Steve Asmussen. You're listening to the Horse Racing Radio Network.
You're listening to the Equine Forum on HRRN, presented by TwinSpires.
Watching him win that race was truly I couldn't even put it in words. I had a lot of emotions at the moment because he won it so well. Just the fact that we were at Saratoga was huge. I felt really confident in him. But you always have those little thoughts in the back of your mind that, gosh, can it happen? We always have to wait till they kick the latches to see if they do their job and do it well. And he's a young horse. And the only moment of hesitation on if we're going to get our win picture taken was the fact that Gulfport had, he had a little trouble in the turn. And I felt pretty confident we hadn't had anything to do with it, but it was still kind of a scare. But yeah, that was a great moment, watching him do his thing out there like the champ that he is.
Well, he may very well turn out to be a champion. That's trainer Michelle Lovell talking about Damon's Mound. 5-2 on the morning line in today's Iroquois, and she was looking back on the Grade 2 Saratoga Special victory back on August 13th. He's a perfect 2 for 2, has won both races quite impressively, and now has to deal with a whole new cast of characters, including the morning line favorite in there, Echo again from the barn of Steve Asmussen. Many people thinking that he may be among the top juveniles in the country this year. We will find out. It's a great showdown in the Iroquois. Comes your way at 4:55 Eastern Time this afternoon. That is the 9th race on the Churchill Downs program. All right, hour number 2 comes up next. It kicks off with Jeff Bratt, who is the tremendous Woodbine handicapper. He took time yesterday to visit with our Bobby Newman on our Betting with Bobby show, which you can catch every Friday from 4 to 6 Eastern. They talked about the 3 win-in-you're-in races coming up at Woodbine later today, so I want to replay that conversation for you. So I bring you Jeff's insight into those races. Unsung Heroes, presented by Woodbine Entertainment, comes up at 9:20, and at 9:40, I go down the road to the Breeders' Cup with Paulo Lobo, who is the trainer of Ivar in today's Woodbine Mile. So an awful lot of Woodbine conversation coming up in hour number 2. Hour 3 at 10 Eastern begins with the TwinSpires Triple Play. I'll be joined by James Scully to give you 3 races to keep an eye on later this afternoon. Kurt Becker strolled through racing history at 10:20, and at 10:30, I ask, they answer with trainer Dale Romans and turf writer Tim Wilkin. So plenty more to come. I am back with hour number 2 right after your Visit Barbados racing update and a 10-second pause for station identification. This is the Horse Racing Radio Network.
Only 48 days remain to the Breeders' Cup World Championships, and 3 more automatic bids are on the line later today at Woodbine. Last year's Breeders' Cup Juvenile Turf winner Modern Games is the 7-5 morning line favorite as he gets set to take on 10 rivals in the Grade 1 Woodbine Mile. 2-year-old fillies are in the spotlight in the Grade 1 Natama, while their male counterparts take center stage in the Grade 1 Summer Stakes. At Churchill Downs, the Grade 3 Iroquois and Pocahontas may not offer an automatic bid to the Breeders' Cup, but winners of both races will have Keeneland squarely in their sights. The John Ortiz-trained Just a Warrior is the 4-1 morning line favorite in a wide-open 12-horse renewal of the Pocahontas, while a showdown looms between talented colts Damon's Mound and Echo again in the Iroquois. And that's your Visit Barbados racing update, brought to you by Barbados Tourism. Learn more at visitbarbados.org.
If you've been waiting to discover that sweet spot where peace of mind meets the time of your life, then it sounds like you've been waiting on Barbados. You've been waiting to experience a meal that makes you book a flight to have it again. You've been waiting for adventure in the sun, from the majesty of horse racing and polo to the thrill of surfing our playful waves. From the moment you set foot on the island, you'll realize Barbados is exactly what you've been waiting for. Visit jetblue.com/Barbados for special vacation packages.
This is the Equine Forum, presented by TwinSpires.
Mike Pennebaron in the backstretch. Happy to have you back with me. Hour 2 of 3 of the Equine Forum rolling on. A busy Saturday morning as usual. Huge day of racing at Woodbine. Big day of racing at Churchill Downs and pretty big at Belmont at Aqueduct too. You've got some great showdowns, rematches, rubber matches, whatever you want to call them, coming up later today. And if you missed any portion of the first hour of the program, or if you missed any of our shows, all you have to do is head back to our website, horseracingradio.net. You can listen to the podcast there. You can also listen to our podcast on every major podcast platform. However you get your podcast, whether it's Apple Apple Podcasts or whether it's Google or whether it's Podbean. It doesn't matter. You can listen at your leisure by simply searching Horse Racing Radio Network and following us there. By the way, one of those podcasts you'll want to check out is our Weekend Stakes Preview Show, which is posted right now. Bobby Newman, Dave Friedman, handicap all of the weekend's biggest races. So if you're looking for a little extra insight before you go play the races, check out the Weekend Stakes Preview. And while you're there, check out Trainer Talk, presented by Fasig-Tipton. I welcomed Lindsay Schultz this past week. I spent an hour visiting with Lindsay, who has her trainer career off and running. She's doing a fantastic job. It was a really enjoyable conversation, and that 1 hour interview is posted right now on our website, horseracingradio.net, and on major podcast platforms. Poll question today, and you can vote at HRN on Twitter, Horse Racing Radio Network on Facebook. Which of the 3 winning races being contested at Woodbine is most likely to produce a Breeders' Cup winner? You have the Summer Stakes for the 2-year-old boys, the Natalma for the 2-year-old girls, and then you have the Woodbine Mile. I said at the top of the show, to me, it's the Woodbine Mile. Because of the fact that, well, number one, you have a proven Breeders' Cup winner in there, Modern Games, who is going to be the favorite. He's the morning line favorite. But then you also have the competition. Let's face it, the competition there is pretty solid. You're going to have Ivar, who is second choice on the morning line. You'll hear from his trainer, Paulo Lobo, coming up 9:40 Eastern. But Ivar is accomplished. He's running the Breeders' Cup Mile twice, hasn't won it yet. 4th 2 years ago, 3rd last year, beaten a combined 3.5 lengths in those 2 efforts. He is a legitimate Breeders' Cup Mile type of horse. He's a Grade 1 winner, too. He won at Keeneland, a Grade 1, the Shadwell Turf Mile. You have Cheryl Spite, also a Grade 1 winner. That Grade 1 coming earlier this year at Keeneland in the Grade 1 Maker's Mark Mile. And then you have Wakanaka, who, other than just a really cool, fun name to say, Wakanaka from the Barnum Hall of Fame trainer Bill Mott, very capable of breaking through in a race like this or the Breeders' Cup Mile. So I think it has to be the Breeders' Cup Mile. And I think the other factor that plays into it is that we just don't know a lot about the juveniles competing in the Summer Stakes and the Natalma. Yeah, they've had a couple of starts, but we really don't know what they are yet. And right now, it looks like most of you are agreeing with me. 64% of the vote saying that it is the Woodbine Mile as the race most likely to produce a Breeders' Cup winner out of those 3 coming up later today. Well, we're going to find out what Jeff Bratt has to say. He's the longtime Woodbine handicapper, does a tremendous job. And yesterday, he took time to visit with Bobby Newman on our Betting with Bobby program.
Pleased now to be joined by the television host and handicapper at Woodbine, Jeff Bratt. Jeff, huge weekend of racing north of the border, my friend, including that 4-bagger of stakes on Saturday.
3 Breeders' Cup Challenge win, and you are in events as well, Bobby. Don't tell my bosses this, but this is my favorite weekend of the season, so I would probably do the job for free tomorrow, but I kind of still want to get paid. But, yeah, I'm so looking forward to it. I just love these days of racing. You get the best of the best, and we're very fortunate to have Modern Games with us, too, for the Iroquois Woodbine Mile. So that should be a lot of fun.
Well, let's start right at the top. The first of the 4 graded stakes on the Saturday card is the Grade 1 Summer Stakes. And you mentioned Modern Games. He's, of course, for the connections of Charlie Appleby and William Buick. But they team up as well for a 2-year-old in the Summer Stakes, and Mysterious Night, who on paper looks like he has a big class edge.
I would agree, and I was just looking at his replays, too, and I've had a chance to see him train a couple of occasions so far this week, just some light jogs on the turf course. He's a big horse, and when he's run in Great Britain and in France, the course has had significant give to it, and I just wonder, with a big horse like that, is it a challenge to race on a turf course that more often than not in Europe is a little bit on the softer side of things, and maybe coming over here to North America might be a little bit more effective on a firmer turf course. So I think it might be happier under those circumstances. And you spoke of the fact, Charlie Appleby, he cleaned up last season with these races as well. So the race definitely goes right through that horse. And I think the best horse to beat him potentially is Philip My Dear, who is based here locally, but the race clearly does go through Mysterious Night.
Eighth race on the Saturday card is the Grade 3 Seaway for the fillies and mares going 7 furlongs. And on paper, it looks like the bettors are going to be between Super Sensational and Lady Spitespear.
Yeah, I would agree with that. Hazelbrook's been a real nice Cinderella story for us here locally. Back-to-back wins in this category. And Lady Spitespear, she's been so interesting because when you think of her racing on turf, but on synthetic, she has had arguably one of her funnest efforts ever. Was her first ever star on the synthetic, and then last time out in the Trillium, she won rather nicely too. So I think it's one of those three. I'm obviously Super Sensational's been facing some pretty tough horses, but Lady Spitespear, they scratched out a race down Kentucky Downs because they were worried about the turf course being a little bit on the soft side of things. So this is kind of plan B for Lady Spitespear.
Yeah, that win that she had in the Bessarabian back about a year ago up at Woodbine certainly looks like it would make her the one to beat in this spot. Obviously, the biggest race of the day and one of the highlights of the meet is that Grade 1 Rico Woodbine Mile. 3-year-olds and up going a mile on the turf. And this is another one where, at least in my mind, I think the bettors are going to be kind of between two horses. Certainly mostly on the Breeders' Cup Juvenile Turf Champ from last year, Modern Games. But Ivar, no slouch himself, coming in with very good credentials.
I kind of forget how good Ivar is because he doesn't run very often. Back in 2021, he ran 3 times. He's only run 1 so far this season. So, and he set a course record in the process at Horseshoe Indianapolis. So, Ivar, he'll be rolling down the stretch. But Modern Games, if you only lose by a length of 3/4 to a Bailly, that's pretty good. Bailly's 10 for 10, came out of that race to win the John Mayer National by 6.5 lengths. Locally, I'd love to see Roger Atfield win this race. He's never won it. Cheryl Spite, I think, will be better than what we saw last time out in the Connaught and will appreciate the extra distance. But you name it, we've got in this race. We've got a 3-year-old taking on older horse. We've got a filly taking on the boys in here. You've got the defending champion in Town Cruise is off form right now, so that's a bit of a cause for concern. And you have Mighty Heart, who's a bit of a fan favorite as well, who's trying to get back into the swing of things. So we'll see if he can do that or not.
Am I missing something here? It looks to me with Town Cruise and War Bomber and Get Smokin' and even a little bit Mighty Heart that there should be enough pace that both Modern Games and Ivar could come running.
The exact opposite from last year. Because remember, last year there was no pace, and Town Cruise took advantage of it. So, yeah, I think you're right. I think there's so much pace in this race that there should be no excuses for the horses coming from off the pace, that's for sure. And you look at Town Cruise, and you just and same with Get Smokin'. They've got to be on the front end to have success. So that they've got to go in this spot. So I think we should have a real honest pace on our hands for sure.
And then the final of the graded stakes tomorrow, or rather on Saturday, is the $500,000 Grade 1 Natalma, and a lot of these fillies coming out of the same race, the Catch a Glimpse, where Cairo Consort was able to come from well off the pace and win. That was 6.5 furlongs. Now all of them, with the exception of G. Laurie, trying as far as a mile for the first time.
Right, and Cairo Consort had an absolute dream trip up the inside on that particular occasion, too. I don't want to take anything away from her performance because, she was good, and she's getting better with each and every race, but she did have a dream trip on that day, too. Whereas the horse that I like for tomorrow is Wickenheiser. And Wickenheiser had just a disastrous trip. The horse was so far out of it and then had to go 8 wide on the turn. And it wasn't like the fractions were blistering up front. And I'm not going to give up on Wickenheiser yet. I really like this horse. And based on how well the horse ran first time out, I think she's better than what we saw in that most recent race. So I'm going to go in that one's direction. G. Laurie, I don't know what she beat last time out. She obviously did it the right way. But I don't have any concerns with Cairo Consort being able to get the distance. But I'm on the corner of Wickenheiser coming up tomorrow.
And if the 4 races on Saturday weren't enough, there's another great graded stake on the Sunday card, the Grade 3 Singspiel for a mile and 3/8 on the turf for the 3-year-olds and up. Got a pretty solid favorite on the morning line in King Vega. That surprised me a little bit because when I was handicapping the race, Jeff, I thought British Royalty looked every bit as good as King Vega.
I think maybe we have some recency bias on our hands because British Royalty has been facing really tough competition, obviously all season long down in the States, and then came back here to Woodbine, and we thought, okay, it was absolutely in the perfect spot in Niagara. And he didn't show up. He didn't have the cleanest of trips early, but he just simply did not show up for whatever reason. So he's trying to bounce back. I think the big thing with the Motion Horse is just the fact that there doesn't seem to be much pace in the race, and I think potentially that horse might be able to wire the field.
All right, should be a great weekend of racing up at Woodbine. Also want to mention that there's a $250,000 guaranteed pick 5 starting with that 7th race on the Saturday card, the 4 graded stakes, and then closing out with race 11. Looking forward to playing that, looking forward to handicapping and really diving in. And, Jeff, really appreciate you taking the time out of your busy schedule to join us for what is your favorite weekend, my friend.
It is. Thank you very much, Bobby. Very much looking forward to it, and I appreciate all the coverage you give us. So thank you, and enjoy the rest of your week.
Yeah, much different pace scenario. You heard Jeff talk about that in today's Woodbine Mile. Town Cruise is the defending champion. Town Cruise has raced 3 times since winning that race last year. Hasn't really been close. Hasn't hit the board yet in those 3 outings. So to think that he's going to have this major form reversal today, the blinkers come off in an attempt to try to see if he'll hold that speed a little bit longer. He might even try to sit just off of the speed today because there is other speed in there. Last year he took advantage of a soft pace. This year, not the case. And this field is pretty stacked. So one of the things I'll bring up with Dale and Tim, and I ask, they answer at 10:30 Eastern, Dale Romans and Tim Wilkin, is what are the chances that Town Cruise finds a way to pull off an even bigger shocker this year? Last year he was in decent form coming into the Woodbine Mile. Pretty good form, actually. Not the case this year. So we'll see. But I think Jeff hit the nail on the head. Much different pace scenario in this year's renewal. The other thing I brought up at the top of the show, and if you missed it, coming back to our poll question, which is which of the 3 win-in-your-in races being contested at Woodbine later today is most likely to produce a Breeders' Cup winner this year? The Summer Stakes and the Natama are kind of mysteries because we don't know much about those horses. They're lightly raced. It looks to me like the Natama, probably the more likely of those 2. If you were to narrow it down and just say, okay, which of those 2 were to produce a Breeders' Cup winner, the Natama with the 2-year-old fillies, probably a little bit more likely. But I think the horse that could be the one standing in the winner's circle today, and maybe even looking ahead to the Breeders' Cup Juvenile Fillies turf, is Adora, who is 6-1 on the morning line. And with a cleaner trip, could be more than capable of turning the tables on morning line favorite Cairo Consort. And you heard Jeff mention the fact that Cairo Consort kind of had the dream trip last time out when she beat Adora. Adora did not have the dream trip. So a better trip probably puts Adora right there and probably puts her in front of Cairo Consort. Certainly gives her every chance. And Mark Cassidy has been high on Adora from the start. He thought enough of her to bring her to Saratoga and run her in the Grade 3 Schuylerville after she broke her maiden on the synthetic at Woodbine. That leads me to believe that Mark has always held her in high regard right from the start. So don't be surprised if you see Adora run a big race today. Whether she's good enough or not, we'll find out. And whether she's good enough or not to win the Juvenile Fillies turf is a whole nother topic. But if you're talking about just those 2 races and not the 3 that I proposed in today's poll question, you have to think the Natama is probably a little bit stronger than the Summer Stakes. One cool storyline in the Woodbine Mile is 2-time Canadian Horse of the Year, Mighty Heart. Mighty Heart is as game as they come, and he loves Woodbine. Good enough to win that race today. He's going to be a long shot, 20-1 on the morning line, and that's probably about right. But one thing's for sure, he's going to show up and he's going to run his race. Well, this week's Unsung Hero, which, by the way, that segment coming up next right after this commercial break, this week's Unsung Hero, unable to make it here this morning. So I decided, in honor of the 2-time Canadian Horse of the Year, Mighty Heart, I would bring you a replay of an Unsung Hero segment that we aired on May 28th, my visit with Des McMahon, who is the exercise rider for Mighty Heart. Now, keep in mind that conversation took place one day prior to Mighty Heart competing in the Eclipse Stakes. So you'll hear us mention that, talk about that briefly. But this story, much more about Des McMahon as an unsung hero and all the work that Des does working with Mighty Heart. That comes up next, followed by the Road to the Breeders' Cup with Paulo Lobo. That is all part of a busy second hour of the program. This is the Equine Forum, presented by TwinSpires on HRRN.
Race to TwinSpires, where you can unlock a $25 risk-free bet. Just use the code HRRN25 when you sign up. And if your first bet doesn't win, TwinSpires will refund your account up to $25. Wagering on the app is fast with free past performances, insider picks, and power plays every day you wager. TwinSpires. Download the app today to earn your $25 risk-free bet. Void where prohibited. For terms and conditions, visit TwinSpires.com. Must be 18 or older, 21 and older where applicable. For help with a gambling problem, call 1-800-GAMBLER.
Maryland has thoroughbred racing covered this fall. The legendary Pimlico Racecourse offers September racing that includes the Fall Festival of Racing, covering 2 Saturdays with 8 stakes worth $875,000 in purses. Live racing returns to Laurel Park on September 29th, and the first Saturday of the Laurel Fall Meet starts the season with 5 stakes worth $575,000 in purses. October keeps bringing it with Maryland Million Day, featuring 12 stakes and over $1 million in purses. Details at marylandracing.com. Racing Friday through Sunday, post time 12:40 p.m.
Achieve Equine, makers of Flair Equine nasal strips, brings you innovative, evidence-based products for the health and well-being of your equine athletes, like the new Impact Protection Half Pad from Europe, VIP Equestrian, that provides a superior layer of cushioning for the horse's back. Visit achieveequine.com for more information on the innovative products we offer. That's achieveequine.com. Breathe easy, we've got your back.
Horse players, in 2020, Canterbury Park introduced a 10% takeout traditional 50-cent pick 5. That's the lowest takeout on the planet. This season, in addition to that low takeout pick 5, Canterbury offers a 10% takeout pick 4, beginning with the first race each day. Again, the lowest takeout in horse racing. Canterbury Park. We race Wednesday, Thursday, and Saturday at 5 p.m. Central and Sunday at 1. CanterburyPark.com, home of the 10% takeout.
I'm here with Joe Brown Nicholson of Nicholson Insurance Agency. Joe, how do you value a horse for insurance?
Well, Mike, it's easy to value a horse when purchased out of a public auction. The insured value would simply be the auction price. But insuring homebreds can be a little more involved.
How so?
Well, factors such as a stud fee, conformation, pedigree, sales and race records of siblings, even popularity of the stallion, all come into play.
How closely do you work with owners in determining a horse's value?
Well, the owner has a pretty good idea of the horse's value, so generally it's just a matter of agreeing to the request and having the policy issued.
For all your equine and general insurance needs, including farm owners, liability, homeowners, auto, and more, contact Joe Brown Nicholson at nicholsoninsurance.com or call 859-224-7080. That's 859-224-7080. Nicholson Insurance Agency.
You're listening to the Equine Forum on HRRN, presented by TwinSpires.
Heroes in the world of sports are not uncommon, oftentimes thrusting themselves into the limelight through unimaginable feats.
Back behind the ball, Woods puts it. And in! He has done it! Tiger is back! Tiger is back on top! Tiger Woods, the 2019 Masters champion!
And breathtaking performances.
Here's how you count to 8. 3, 2, 1. And for the 8th time, college basketball's national championship trophy is coming home to Kentucky.
But behind every great hero, there are others. Individuals who play a crucial role in the achievements of those we read about in the headlines. The ultimate team players. Content to stand behind the curtain, embracing their place as a vital part of a sport's success. In horse racing, these are the unsung heroes.
Well, Mighty Heart was just named Canadian Horse of the Year again for the second consecutive year. A winner of 6 of 17 starts, more than $1 million in earnings, and returns tomorrow in the Grade 2 Eclipse Stakes at Woodbine. And All of that success is great, but it wouldn't be possible without a true unsung hero, and that is Des McMahon, the longtime exercise rider for Mighty Heart. I actually reached out to Mighty Heart's Hall of Fame trainer, Josie Carroll, and asked her if there was somebody she would recommend as an unsung hero that spends time with Mighty Heart, and she didn't hesitate. She said Des McMahon. Des is with me now. He is an unsung hero. Des, appreciate the visit, my friend.
Thank you very much. Good to be here.
Yeah, congrats on being an unsung hero. I don't know if you look at yourself in that fashion, but I know Josie counts you as an integral part of the team and a huge part of the success of Mighty Heart.
Well, thank you. That's, great accolade to come from Josie. And, everybody in the barn does their part, and it's just good to get recognition.
What's it like to sit on a two-time Horse of the Year?
It's pretty special, he's got one eye, so he kind of stands out. He can't really sneak by people on the racetrack. Everybody knows him and they call him by his name, and his ears perk up, and just feels good that being acknowledged like that.
Do you have to do anything different with him in the mornings because he only has one eye?
When he first came in as a 2-year-old and a little bit as a 3-year-old, there was some quirky things that he did to start his training out. But now we just have our little routine that we do, and everything works out fine. He was a little skeptical walking down to the middle of the track to start his gallop, so we just kind of walk down the outside fence and get into our rhythm. And it took a while, but we learned from each other. Now it's just normal for him.
He's now 5 years old, and you mentioned him as a 2-year-old and some of the things he went through there early on in his career. Have you been with him from the very beginning?
Yeah, I was, when he first shipped into Woodbine, I was on him the first day he came in. And with our 2-year-old, sometimes we switch the riders around a little bit just to get everyone used to everybody. And then I just kind of kept getting him every day, and it stuck. And this is my 4th summer on him now.
I know when he was 2 and you sat on him for the first time that you weren't thinking this is necessarily a 2-time Canadian Horse of the Year. I mean, who would know that? But what did you remember about that first time you climbed aboard Mighty Heart?
The first couple of days were fun. Were fun, really. That's when he started his little quirks with the eye, and he didn't want to leave the barn. He didn't want to go on the wash bays. So it took a little bit of time. But once he got into his rhythm and he started galloping, we could tell that, he could be an okay little horse.
I sat at the Sovereign Awards a couple of times now, and we were awarded a Sovereign Award for our Queen's Plate broadcast a few years back, and I know how special it is for the connections to hear their name called or their horse's name called. I know how much it means for the owner and the trainer and the rider of that horse. How about for the exercise rider? When you heard Mighty Heart's name called as Horse of the Year 2 years ago for the very first time, what was that like for you?
It was great, and it was during COVID, so they didn't have an actual award show. It was televised, so I was watching it at home. And I got a lot of text messages from everybody that knows that I was involved with the horse, congratulating me and everything, and the owner and Josie. And then this year when he got it again, we were able to have the award ceremony, and I was there. And it was just an honor, and the owner, Larry Cordes, thanked everybody. And, the horse does the running, but he thanked everybody that was involved in the horse, and that was really special of him to do that for us.
Yeah, didn't Josie tell me that Larry went and had glass trophies engraved and created for everybody that works with Mighty Heart on every level?
Yeah, I got one. It just says, thank you for all the work that you've done with Mighty Heart, and my name on it, and a list of his awards. And hopefully we can add to that this year.
Is Mighty Heart the best horse that you've ever sat on?
That's a tough question. I think he's the most special horse to me because, I've worked for Josie for 15 years, and I've been on a lot of nice horses for her. But Mighty Heart, I've been on since he first came in as a 2-year-old. I was the first one to sit on him at the racetrack. So I think he's more special in that way. And he has accomplished more than the other horses that I've been on. So I guess I'd have to say that he is, yes.
Yeah. Talking with Des McMahon, who is the longtime exercise rider for Mighty Heart. You heard him just say moments ago that he's been part of that team with Josie Carroll for 15 years now. Talk about, Des, that relationship that you have with those horses and what your responsibility as an exercise rider is every morning.
Basically, when the horses are young at 2 and even 3 years old, we're their teachers. We want to teach them about lead changes and going to the starting gate and how to relax and just, how to be a racehorse pretty much. And we follow Josie's training schedule. If she wants us to gallop, we gallop, jog, whatever. She's got it planned out to a T of what she wants for each horse for when their races are coming, and we just try and follow that. Basically we're just teachers of the young horses, and then when they get older, we just try and keep them what Josie wants.
So I've never had the privilege of sitting on a racehorse, and racehorses will thank me for that when they see that I'm probably much, much bigger than you are, Des. But when you're on a horse, one of the jobs of an exercise rider is to, if the trainer says, hey, we want to go at this time, or we're looking for this type of workout or this type of gallop, it's your responsibility to make sure you don't go too fast, you don't go too slow. How on earth do you keep track of how fast you're going when you're aboard a horse in the mornings?
Myself, I don't do a lot of the actual workouts. I just do the galloping. But when I do the odd workout, the trick is for some people to just kind of count in their head or to just look at the fence and see how fast the fence is going by you and judge by that how fast you're going. And the guys that do a lot of workouts get really good at getting their times. And, Josie's pretty particular on time. She might tell you, I want a 49 or I want a 101 for the 5/8. I don't want to go a minute. I don't want to go 102. And the guys are pretty good at getting the right time for her.
Des, tell me a little bit more about your
repetition.
Yeah.
Sorry.
Yeah. Tell me a little bit more about your background. You come from a racing family. Take me back to the beginning. Was this all you ever wanted to do, was be involved in racing?
Yeah, pretty much. Yeah. My dad was a jockey for a number of years. And then when he stopped that, he became a steward here in Canada for, say, about 20 years. And he retired from that, and now he trains a horse, and he's actually still galloping horses at Fort Erie Racetrack. And so I just grew up at the racetrack, and I've always been involved as a hot walker, groom, exercise rider. I'm a valet in the afternoon, so it's kind of just in the blood, and here we are.
Yeah, there's another job that people might not realize exists on the racetrack, a valet. Tell me about being a valet and what you have to do there in the afternoons.
Basically, we put the saddles on the horses for the races, and then after the race, take them off, bring them back to the jocks room, and we look after some of the jockeys, their equipment and their helmets and boots and stuff. So we clean all that stuff, and we get to see the races and get paid for it.
Yeah, nothing wrong with that. It's a very important job too.
Yeah, you got to make sure all the equipment's in good shape, and you don't want anybody going out there and getting injured or anything. So, it's important that we do a good job over there.
Did you ever, maybe when you were first getting started with that job, did you ever mess it up and give somebody the wrong equipment or something?
Maybe the wrong silks the odd time, but no, all their goggles and helmets and saddles are all marked, and boots are all marked, so you can't really mess that stuff up. But you might mix up the silks or the helmet cover or something once in a while, but not very often.
You know, if somebody's listening to this and they're thinking about getting involved in the sport as an exercise rider, working for a trainer in some aspect in the mornings, what advice do you give to them, Des?
I think go for it. Your best bet is to find a farm. There's lots of farms that are training centers, and you can get started there. And obviously, you just got to take your time and learn properly. You don't want to just come in and jump on a racehorse and off you go. So you want to take your time, get somebody to teach you properly, and because it's a dangerous job if you don't really know what you're doing. But I think if anybody has any aspirations, they should just go for it.
What do you think your life would look like now, and what you might be doing if you never got involved with horse racing? What else do you enjoy?
I don't know. I don't know if I could, after being involved with racing so long, I don't know if any kind of office job would have been for me. You're outside all the time with races and galloping horses, and sometimes it's no good when it's raining or anything, or in Canada when it gets cold, but you're still outside. You're not penned up in an office. So I don't know. I like cooking, so maybe I would have gone the chef route if I had thought about it back in the day. But I got stuck here at the track, and it's worked out for me. So I'm very happy with it.
Yeah, it's worked out beautifully, and you can see when you listen to Des McMahon talk about his life and his career why he is a true unsung hero in the sport of thoroughbred racing. Des, before I let you go, do you have a favorite Mighty Heart moment, whether it be from the mornings when you've been aboard him or watching him race in the afternoons?
I would have to say by far the 2020 Queen's Plate victory. I told the groom in the morning, wear something nice because I think he might surprise everybody. And he surprised us and won by 8 lengths. And that was probably the greatest time for me right there.
Yeah, it was a special day for the connections of Mighty Heart and for this week's Unsung Hero, Des McMahon, here this morning. Des, listen, I really appreciate the visit, and thanks for taking a little time to do this with me here this morning, and all the best moving forward. All the best with Mighty Heart tomorrow in his return to Woodbine.
Thank you very much. Appreciate it.
All right, Des McMahon, this week's Unsung Hero, that segment presented by Woodbine Entertainment. I'm back with more right after this word from Woodbine.
It's Super Saturday on September 17th as Woodbine Turf Racing takes center stage with 3 Breeders' Cup Challenge Series events featuring the $1 million Grade 1 Rico Woodbine Mile, the $500,000 Grade 1 Natalma Stakes presented by Johnny Walker, and the Pattison Summer Stakes, all on the famed E.P. Taylor Turf Course. Woodbine Racetrack, where the best of the best compete for the ultimate challenge. Win, and you're in. Wager Woodbine today.
If you know somebody you feel deserves to be recognized as an unsung hero, simply email their story to me, and I will do my best to get them on this program in the weeks ahead. That is Mike@horseracingradio.net. When I come back, it is time to go down the road to the Breeders' Cup. We continue to talk about the Woodbine races with trainer Paulo Lobo. This is the Equine Forum, presented by TwinSpires on HRRN.
Race the TwinSpires, where you can unlock a $25 risk-free bet. Just use the code HRRN25 when you sign up. And if your first bet doesn't win, TwinSpires will refund your account up to $25. Wagering on the app is fast with free past performances, insider picks, and power plays every day you wager. TwinSpires. Download the app today to earn your $25 risk-free bet. Void where prohibited. For terms and conditions, visit TwinSpires.com. Must be 18 or older, 21 and older where applicable. For help with a gambling problem, call 1-800-GAMBLER.
Millridge has a history of raising and selling racehorses, with 36 Grade 1 winners since 2000, including 2 Horse of the Years, a Kentucky Derby winner, and 7 Breeders' Cup winners. Spread throughout 5 books at the Keeneland September Yearling Sale, Millridge is offering a group of athletes by leading sires Uncle Mo, Into Mischief, and Curlin, as well as racehorse sires like Twirling Candy, Speightstown, and Constitution, plus yearlings by Oscar Performance, who has made a promising start with his 2-year-olds. Millridge, raising and selling racehorses.
The Royal Palm Meet is just heating up with summer thoroughbred racing at Gulfstream Park. Join us Friday through Sunday for heart-pounding racing excitement and delectable hospitality. Enjoy the races outdoors at our new Carousel Club, or cool off in a private suite, or our trackside restaurant, 10 Palms. For stake schedules, reservations, and ticketing, head to GulfstreamPark.com.
Adena Springs stallion American Guru is a star in the making, with his first foals arriving this year. From a family steeped in tradition, offering Mr. Prospector influences on both sides, and breeders can tap into the famed Leafards Delta line. A winner on both turf and Tapeta, American Guru recorded 4 wins from 7 starts, with victories from 5 furlongs to a mile, including this brilliant win over the Belmont Park turf in 132.09.
American Guru swings up on the outside, 3/4 in 108.22. And holding on here is a Tribute with another furlong to go. American Guru yet to get by, but still trying hard. A Tribute on the inside. American Guru draws even. American Guru getting to a Tribute late. And American Guru and Irad Ortiz have won it by 2.
American Guru, standing at Adena Springs. Visit AdenaStallions.com.
Grade 1 winner and track record setter Lee. Like their sire, his runners have excelled on both dirt and turf, including these standout performers.
Leading by 3, Gibberish and Dylan Davis.
Out of a Galileo mare, this dual surface star has sired juvenile stakes winners on both dirt and turf. Lee, standing at Claiborne Farm.
Shh. Can you hear it? The world-class thoroughbreds are racing at Remington Park. There's live racing now through December 17th. So don't miss all the action on the track and in the casino. With big wins and great entertainment. Send your heart racing at Remington Park.
Hello, this is Steve Cawthon, winner of the Triple Crown 1978 aboard Affirmed, and you are listening to the Horse Racing Radio Network.
You're listening to the Equine Forum on HRRN, presented by TwinSpires.
Analyze at 5th, going to have to swing toward the center of the course. Still 5 lengths from the front. Flavius has 6 to make up. Then Ivar, who's 7 from the lead. They turn for home. Casa Creed with Parlor trying to take a run at him without parole. Needs room to the inside. Analyze it. Needs to find more in 4th. Ivar 5th on the far outside. Casa Creed short lead. Here's Ivar. Ivar picks up the chase. Ivar striding forward. Raging Bull's coming late to 2nd, but Ivar is in front for Joe Talamo. Ivar to win the Shadwell Turf Mile. Raging Bull was across the line in 2nd in a time of 1 minute 33.99 seconds.
Welcome back to the Equine Forum, presented by TwinSpires. Mike Penna, Baron of the Backstretch, with you on this Saturday morning. That was Kurt Becker with the call of the Grade 1 Shadwell Turf Mile in 2020 at Keeneland. October 3rd was the date, and it was a huge effort by Ivar to get the victory that day, a victory that would catapult him to his first of 2 starts in the Breeders' Cup Mile. He would finish 4th that year, beaten just 2 lengths. He came back the following year, last year, to finish 3rd in the Breeders' Cup Mile, beaten just 1.5 lengths. So he is getting closer, and he tries to earn a return trip there later today in the Woodbine Mile for trainer Paulo Lobo, who is joining us now to go down the road to the Breeders' Cup. Paulo, appreciate the visit, my friend.
Good morning, Mike. Good morning, listeners, and thanks for the opportunity.
I have to tell you, listening to that call from Kurt Becker put some chills on my arm. How about you?
Yeah, always good to win Grade 1, and especially at home at Keeneland. The feeling is unbeatable.
The thing about that race, when you think about it, Paulo, he just kept coming and coming, and you kind of got the sense, even in mid-stretch, he wasn't going to be denied.
Yeah, he duplicates what
And it sounds like we might have lost Paulo for a moment here, maybe a bad cell phone area. He is at Woodbine right now. We'll try to reconnect with him and bring him back on to talk about Ivar, who goes in the Woodbine Mile. Second choice at odds of 4-1. And look, you see what he does in these Breeders' Cup miles, right? He shows up, he runs his race. He hasn't been good enough to win one yet, but you have to think that as consistent as he is, if he gets past the Woodbine Mile today, he's going to be a major player yet again. He's going to be a horse you have to take a look at. And the odds on Ivar in those two Breeders' Cup miles, he was 7-1 in the 2020 edition. He was 24-1 when he ran third last year. So he doesn't know what the odds are on the tote board, and he doesn't care. He just shows up and runs his race. Paulo is indeed back with us now. Paulo, sorry we lost the connection there. You were talking about his win in the Shadwell Turf Mile in 2020.
Yeah, he was very impressive that day, and his style that day remind me how he used to run in Argentina, okay? The guys over there in Argentina used to take him way off the pace, and he has a very strong turn of foot. And, cost him a lot of races here to get accustomed with these small stretches and small turns, because where he used to run in San Isidro and Palermo, it's kind of Belmont Park, probably bigger, and then sometimes South American horses, they take a little while to get accustomed.
Paulo, if he can get past the Woodbine Mile today, he will earn an all-expense-paid trip and a spot in the starting gate of the Breeders' Cup Mile. It would be his third consecutive year competing in that race. That's pretty incredible. How have you been able to keep Ivar at the top of his game all of these three years?
I think the biggest key is I'm giving my grass horses the winter break, and then cost me a little bit in the beginning of the year to catch the other horses, but we always think in big races for more towards the middle of the year and the end of the year, and then I think it's working for us.
You brought him back on July 9th at Horseshoe, Indianapolis. He was a heavy favorite in a stakes race that he was supposed to win, and he did. It was one of the better races of his career. Is it possible that Ivar is better now at age 6 than he was at age 5 and age 4 and age 3?
He's late South American born. He's not 6 yet. For American, he's 6, but he's turning 6 in the beginning of October, and I've seen a lot horses from South America because everybody tried to give a lot of time to get them acclimated here, and then all this time that you give now, they are paying for us back, because I've seen a lot of horses campaign with 5 years old, 6 years old, and even 7 years old. A lot of, I can tell you, a lot of horses: Siphon, Sun de Pit, Romarin, Pico Central. A lot of horses that came from Brazil. I mentioned only in Brazil. I think Riboleta, run as 6 years also. I think the time that you give in the beginning, I think the horses like for a longer campaign here.
He likes Keeneland. Is there some comfort knowing that the Breeders' Cup is going to be held there again this year?
That's for sure, because we don't need to travel. Last year was a little bit challenging for us because we need to ship the horse to Indianapolis and then take the plane to Del Mar, to San Diego. For now, I am 20 minutes from Keeneland, where we are based. It's much, much easier for us.
All right, Paulo, this field today in the Woodbine Mile is pretty tough. You have to deal with Modern Games, who won the Breeders' Cup Juvenile Turf last year. You have Sherrill Spite from the barn of Roger Atfield, also a Grade 1 winner. Wakanaka for Bill Mott. You have the two-time Canadian Horse of the Year in Mighty Heart, the defending champion in Town Cruise. So tell me, why does Ivar walk out of this race with a victory later today?
First of all, we tried. I have two options: to stay home or try to come here. The main reason that we are trying today, if everything goes good for him, is to give him a little bit more time to the Breeders' Cup. We tried the Shadwell Mile for 2 years in a row, and then you have to run 4 weeks later to the Breeders' Cup. And then this year we fought a lot, we spoke a lot, and we are trying to give him a little bit more extra time towards the Breeders' Cup. That's the reason.
Visiting with trainer Paulo Lobo, who will saddle Ivar in today's Woodbine Mile, trying to get back to the Breeders' Cup Mile for a third consecutive year. And as you heard Paulo say, he trains in Kentucky right here in Lexington, so it wouldn't be an easy drive to get him over to Keeneland for that race. It'd be a home game for him, and I know that he's looking forward to that opportunity. Paulo, this segment is called Road to the Breeders' Cup. You have started 3 horses, Ivar twice, but you've run 4 times in the Breeders' Cup. Your first was in 2002 with Farda Amiga, who was second in the Breeders' Cup Distaff that year. What do you remember about that first Breeders' Cup?
It was remarkable for me. She that year she won. She has won the Kentucky Oaks, and then after the Oaks she got sick, and then we went straight to Saratoga. She won the Alabama, and then she finished second. She lost to Azeri. That's an unbelievable mare. And that year, finishing second, they gave her the title of the 3-year-old filly champion of 2002. And she was a great filly for me, and she was my first horse, good horse that I had here. I own her a lot of things.
Well, you were born in Brazil. Could you ever imagine that a young man from Brazil could come to the United States and train a champion like Farda Amiga?
Yeah, it was a dream. This thing meant to be, because I just that year, 2002, we arrived here, me and my wife, in 2001, with 5 fillies that our clients bought in Keeneland, September 2000. And then that's the way I started here. And among those 5, we had a Kentucky Oaks winner. That is an amazing and lucky. I don't know God, or I don't know, but happened to me, and then she was my first very good horse here. And after her, I was lucky to have a lot of good horses training, Pico Central, Gallego, a lot of good ones, Gallego, and Ivar, Imperador, In Love. I had a very good group of horses that keep us to wake up and come to work.
Tell me about In Love for a minute, because In Love is a horse that just finished 5th in the FanDuel Tappet Stakes back on September 1st. What's going on with In Love?
Yeah, he's not running as he was last year. He looks for me sound. I don't know if he lost a little bit of interest, but let's see how he does in those 2 weeks ahead of us, and then we are going to make a decision with him.
Yeah, and people might not remember, In Love defeated Ivar in the Keeneland Turf Mile Stakes, another Grade 1 back in October of last year. So you have a couple of horses with some serious quality to them, my friend.
Yeah, thank you so much. I had.
Well, Paulo, listen, all the best in the Woodbine Mile today. It was great to catch up and hear your voice, and good luck, my friend, and get back here to Kentucky, and let's head on to the Breeders' Cup.
Okay, thank you so much, Mike.
All right, trainer Paulo Lobo here on the Horse Racing Radio Network again, the Brazilian-bred trainer who has had some really top horses over the years, and now maybe a couple for this year's Breeders' Cup. Certainly one. Ivar pointed in that direction, but he has to get past the Woodbine Mile later today. He is 4-1, second choice on the morning line. When I come back, I'll take a quick look at some historical dates in racing history and get you ready for a busy third hour of the program. This is the Equine Forum on the Horse Racing Radio Network.
With the fullest fields in the country and quality racing year-round, there's never been a better time to reap the rewards of breeding and racing in Kentucky. Purse money in Kentucky is at an all-time high, and our average purse per race outpaces California, Florida, and New York. Registering your horse with the Kentucky Thoroughbred Development Fund ensures that you'll be racing for the maximum purse amounts available for registered Kentucky breds. Kentucky breds. Breed them, raise them, race them. We all win.
Did you receive a call or message that mentioned Social Security and demanded immediate action? Did the caller know your Social Security number or other personal information and tell you that your Social Security number had been used in connection with the crime? Did you feel worried that your Social Security number might be suspended, your bank account might be frozen or seized, or you could be arrested? That is not the Social Security Administration. Social Security will not threaten you, demand your personal information, or instant payment. Email or text you pictures or documents, or use a real government official's name to gain your trust. Social Security does not accept payments by gift card, prepaid debit card, internet currency, or by mailing cash. Criminals use these forms of payment because they are hard to trace. Do not be fooled. Hang up. Ignore them. Report this criminal activity to the Social Security Administration Office of the Inspector General at oig.ssa.gov.
Produced at U.S. taxpayer expense.
Joe Buck and John Smoltz welcoming you back to the City Center Convenience Mart. Well, John, the stage is set for the final transaction.
That's right, Joe. Heather's moment has arrived, and you just hope all that training pays off.
Heather lays down her purchase, but Randy rings it up as slowly as he can.
He is a wily veteran.
It gives Heather's eyes the chance to wander.
Uh-oh.
Yep, she's looking at the cigarettes.
There's nothing good back there. Quit now, and in 5 years, your odds of getting certain cancers drop 50%.
Meanwhile, Randy's stone-faced. He's giving nothing away. He just stands there, wetting his cashier's finger on that sponge.
Heather toes the rubber.
Here we go. Heather's arm is in motion. But instead of pointing at the back wall, she just grabs the gum off the counter.
That's a slick move.
Heather back. She is out of there. Even Randy tips his cap to Heather. Stand Up to Cancer and Rally wants you to reduce your risk for cancer.
Go to takeahealthystand.org.
Want to get the latest HRRN content directly on your computer or mobile device? Then subscribe to our podcast using the Podbean app or Apple Podcasts. Just go to hrrn.podbean.com on your computer and click follow, or download the Podbean app and search HRRN. You can also find us on Apple Podcasts and listen to our latest episodes anytime. Don't miss a thing. Subscribe to our podcasts today.
Hi, I'm Leah Jarmati, and I love listening to the Horse Racing Radio Network.
You're listening to the Equine Forum on HRRN, presented by TwinSpires.
Well, a couple minutes left before we have to get you to hour number 3. It's been a very busy first couple hours of the show, and time now to take a quick look at a couple of dates in racing history as they apply to this weekend in thoroughbred racing. And not so much here today, but on Thursday, this was a big one. September 15th, 1876, the anniversary of Isaac Murphy, one of the nation's greatest black jockeys, to have his first career win. That came with the Kentucky Association meet in Lexington. At that time, Isaac was known as Isaac Burns. He later adopted the surname of his grandfather. September 15th, last Thursday, also the anniversary of Secretariat winning the Marlboro Cup Invitational in the then world record time of 1:45 2/5 for a mile and an eighth. He defeated his stablemate Riva Ridge. And yesterday, the anniversary of the first time in history the two Triple Crown winners met in a race. It was the Marlboro Cup at Belmont. Seattle slew the 1977 Triple Crown winner, affirmed the 1978 Triple Crown winner by 3 lengths. And those are historical dates in racing history as they apply to this weekend and the past couple of days here in thoroughbred racing. Quick update on the poll question before I get you ready for hour number 3. I asked you which of the 3 win-in-you're-in races being contested at Woodbine later today is most likely to produce a Breeders' Cup winner, and so far 70% of HRRN Nation agrees with me. A lot of smart people out there. 70% saying it's the Woodbine Mile. Hour 3 coming up next. It kicks off with the TwinSpires Triple Play. James Scully will join me to share his thoughts on a few races you'll want to keep an eye on later today. At 10:20, Kurt Becker will take you on his weekly stroll through racing history. And at 10:30, I once again welcome trainer Dale Romans, turf writer Tim Wilkin for this week's edition of I Ask, They Answer. If your local station is leaving us at this time, you can continue listening to the program on Sirius 216 XM 204 in the Louisville, Kentucky market on ESPN 680 or on your computer, phone, or tablet with our live streaming at horseracingradio.net. Hour 3 of the Equine Forum is next, right after I pause 10 seconds for station identification. This is the Horse Racing Radio Network.
From the rail to your radio, this is the Horse Racing Radio Network.
Thundering Blue in the center, tackled by Desert Encounter, and Desert Encounter ranges up. Desert Encounter on the outside, and Thundering Blue, and Desert Encounter full of run. Desert Encounter, Andreas heads in, he's won it. Great performance.
Down to the final 16th. Lazy Daisy's re-rallied. His worries dead game toward the inside, but it is Lazy Daisy in front coming for the wire, and Lazy Daisy won it.
They go to the final furlong, and she's just rolling and rolling with enormous strides. Oh, she's long gone, and Catch a Glimpse is going to absolutely demolish them. And Catch a Glimpse wins the Natoma hands down.
Welcome to the Equine Forum, presented by TwinSpires.
Tippin in front. They have a furlong to run, and she has turned them away. And she is going to make this her own personal playground. Tippin going on to win the Rico Woodbine Mile.
2,550,8 550 down to get him, to get him, to get him, to get him 50, to get 50. Well, thank you. Anybody else? They're all in, all done. Here to get him 2,500,000. Everybody happy. But to get 2 million here down to get him 550. Now have in a bag 2,500,000. Thank you both.
Now here's Mike Penna.
Welcome back. Hour number 3 of a jam-packed edition of the Equine Forum, presented by TwinSpires. Mike Penna, Baron in the backstretch. Happy to have you along for this 3-hour journey here this morning. And boy, the first couple of hours jam-packed. And my thanks to all of our guests for talking about the Keeneland Sales and Churchill Downs and Woodbine. We have covered a lot of different topics, and we're going to continue to do so coming up here in hour number 3. Look, we are edging ever closer to the Breeders' Cup. 48 days. 2 hours, 22 minutes, and 50 seconds away from the Breeders' Cup World Championships coming to Keeneland here in Lexington. Going to be a fantastic event. We are your exclusive radio home of the Breeders' Cup World Championships. The only place you will hear all 14 Breeders' Cup races is right here with us on HRRN. Of course, we'll have all of our coverage prior to that with our Breeders' Cup countdown shows, all presented by our friends at Hillendale. And should be a huge week, and it'll be here before we know it. Breeders' Cup implications on the line at Woodbine today with 3 win-in-you're-in races. We'll talk about those. We talked about them earlier in the program. I will continue to talk about those races as we move throughout hour number 3 as well. If you missed any portion of the first 2 hours, simply head back to our website, horseracingradio.net. You can check out the podcast at your leisure. You can also do that on every major podcast platform. Well, James Scully is with TwinSpires and Briss, and he is with me now for this week's edition of the TwinSpires Triple Play. James, good morning. Some big shoes to fill, my friend. This segment has turned into Long Shot Central because, a few weeks ago, Joe Christofek gave out a bomber at Saratoga, and last week, Scott Shapiro was on this show. He gives out Bran in the turf sprint at Kentucky Downs that pays $25.56 to win, and then at Del Mar, he gave out Maeve of Connaught, who paid $13 to place and darn near won the dang race. So, man, big shoes to fill, my friend.
That's correct. Yeah, I mean, Joe Christofek did a great job handicapping Kentucky Downs as well, and Scott came in last week. So, yeah, those guys have been doing great, picking out some winners. I might not have any big prices like that for today for you, but we've got no morning line favorites picked, so hopefully you can at least get a little value on my selections.
Yeah, I'm sure. And, odds, you know how that goes, right? Odds can drift up. Of course, they can also be bet down, but we see that happen all the time. So as long as we're throwing out the morning line favorites, we have a shot to make some money, and we hope that everybody has been betting those races at TwinSpires, by the way, because it is the place to go to play this week's TwinSpires Triple Play. 3 races you can keep an eye on. And, James, you have 2 selected at Churchill Downs, 1 at Woodbine. You have race 6, race 10 at Churchill, and then race 10 at Woodbine. So let's go in chronological order. We'll begin at Churchill with race number 6. That is a 1-mile allowance race, of course, on the main track because there is no turf racing this meet. 3:18 Eastern is the post. It is a big field, a lot of good betting opportunities in here.
Yeah, absolutely. And, this is the allowances at Churchill, they range from $127,000 to $142,000, and this is an entry-level allowance for 3-year-olds and up. Definitely have some horses that, like Brigadier General, he could, has some stakes experience. People might know him a little bit. And Ignitus as well, doing Lucas Charge, ran in a Derby prep or a couple Derby preps earlier this year. And Unbridled Honor as well, has some back class to him. So it's a solid field, but once again, these horses are eligible for non-winners of one other than, and I'm taking a lightly raced horse in this full field that has some upside, and that's number 9, Pro-Occident. And first off, I just say, I thought this race, had a fair amount of speed signed on. I don't see any true, clear the field, front runners, but I do think the pace will be contested. And when Pro-Occident made his debut, he broke from an outside post that day. He's drawn in post 9 today, but I think that he really just was a little bit of a learning experience for him that day, Mike. And when the light bulb came on the far turn and into the stretch, it was quite an impressive display, quite a terrific turn of foot. I really like just how, to me, he was just, like I said, looked like he was just going in place. And then once, Bejarano asked him to run, he found his best foot. And this is a horse that there were 5 maiden races on that one day, August 13th of special one-day program at Churchill Downs. And Pro-Occident was by far the most impressive. We've got a couple of the other maiden winners running in the stakes today at Churchill Downs. But Pro-Occident not only was impressive, the race came back fast. He got a 93 Brisnet speed rating for it. He is a horse that is a half to multiple Grade 1 winning sprinter AP Indian and Grade 3 winner Tiz Ashay. And definitely to me looks like he's cut from the same stakes quality cloth as those runners. I like the fact he has 3 solid workouts in the 5-week interim. And Eddie Keneally really does well with horses stretching out in distance, wins at a 26% clip. So I think Pro-Occident has a lot going for him, and I think he'll continue to progress and become more professional off that debut and as a future stakes quality type. So it's as the 5-1, I mean, I don't know if these odds are necessarily going to hold, Mike, but he is the actual 5-1 Co-4 choice on the morning line. And I'm in on number 9, Pro Occident.
Yeah, I'll throw this in there too, James. I loved the professionalism he showed in that debut where he was able to sit off the pace and, as the chart says, swept past and drew off. A very mature-looking effort from Pro Occident in that debut.
Yeah, and I'll just say this, the 1 turn mile distance, during the spring, it seemed like, speed definitely played well at days, but just watching the races from the first couple of days of this meet, seen a lot of horses make strong moves on the first far turn and rally from either mid-pack or further back to prove best. The track, looks like it's playing real fair early in the September meet. And I think Pro Occident, like I said, will get a decent setup and, continue to advance upon that turn of foot he showed last time.
Do you feel, too, that with a horse like this making just his second career start against several other horses that have had double-digit starts, and I'll give you an option, I'll give you an example. Policy Option, for example, number 8, is making his 25th lifetime start. Brigadier General, a horse you mentioned earlier, making his 11th lifetime start. So there are some more experienced rivals in this race, but they're running in this race for a reason, right? I mean, they haven't been stellar. They haven't tallied a whole bunch of different wins. So, he's kind of sitting in the same boat. It looks like he has more upside than some of those others with more experience.
Yeah, and that's an outstanding point that was part of my, take when handicapping and going through all the runners in this field is that so many of these horses, so many of the rivals, Pro Occident's rivals in this field have been exposed, have really shown, that they're having trouble clearing this one other than allowance company. And Pro Occident's lightly raced with a lot of upside. Those are the kind of types that I'm going to look at in this allowance. I obviously gave number 10 Drive for Fun and number 11 Ollie Meister a little bit of a look at a price. They might be a couple to consider, I think, underneath for the vertical exotics. Because to me, they just, have some upside. They've run a good race in their recent races. But the difference is Pro Occident has run faster. And, he looks more talented and looks like he has more gears to him than those rivals.
Okay, we'll kick it off with number 9, Pro Occident in race 6 at Churchill, the first leg of the TwinSpires Triple Play. James Scully is my special guest handicapper here this morning. James, the second race you have selected is race number 10 at Churchill. That is a stakes race, the Louisville Thoroughbred Society Stakes, with a purse of $275,000, 6 furlongs on the main track. How'd you see that one?
This is a race, Mike, where we have a horse in here, number 6, Isolate, whose previous form, he won an allowance, a minor stake 2 starts back at Hawthorne, didn't beat much of a field that day, knee deep in snow, very familiar to me, running in a lot of races, allowance races and such in Kentucky, Dow Stewart, I believe. But even like a couple of these races at Oaklawn Park, they were okay efforts. Last time out, Mike, he just completely ran a performance that it really hadn't showed before. To me, it was a little bit akin to what we saw last summer at Saratoga when Baby Yoda showed up there for Belmont. And, it just been in sort of a middling type horse in a sense, and then just ran his eyeballs out. And he ran this huge speed rating that day and crushed Olympiad. And a couple others in there that were well met in an allowance race. But he could not run back to that effort in his next race away from Saratoga. He regressed big time in the Bossberg. Eventually, he dropped into a starter allowance just to get a confidence builder. And I'm sort of looking at Isolate the same way. I thought a big part of that trip last time for him was, being just getting just so clear and getting so easy. And I think a couple of these rivals are going to at least try to keep some pressure or keep him company, namely number 3, Robo Man, who showed improved speed in his last. And my top choice in race number 10, the Louisville Thoroughbred Society Stakes, is number 5, Miles Ahead. And the thing I like about Miles Ahead is that when he made his first start this year in California, didn't run very well in that race, and then got transferred to Paul McGee. And when he ran in that Aristides on June 4th, he broke slowly. He got shuffled back. Was in traffic. Found a little bit of a late run in the stretch to pass rivals for fifth. But he really improved upon that last time out in that Kelly's Landing. I thought that was an outstanding effort that day to just come up a little bit short, against a very good rival. And he got a big figure in that as well, a 101 number. And looking at a horse like Miles Ahead, I look at last year, Mike, where he came back. His previous connections at Edward Pleza freshened him after a race in September where he ran a next second and had gotten a really solid speed rating. And then he brought him back 2 months later, going 7 furlongs on a fast track, and he ran the race of his life that day to win a stakes race at Gulfstream Park, one of the Claiming Crown Stakes that afternoon, and got a 102 Brisnet speed rating. I'm looking for a return type of performance in that. I think this Miles Ahead, that last race stamps that he's back in form. He's moving forward for Paul McGee, and I love the 2 month freshening, and I love the way he's training in preparation. He just worked a bullet 5 furlongs in 59-1, the fastest of 68 runners. So I'm anticipating with Martin Garcia aboard that Miles Ahead is going to sit close to Isolate, sit just off the leader of a few lengths back maybe, and then make a real run and move forward off of that last effort in the Kelly's Landing. And I think that will be good enough to win in this spot. Obviously, you got to deal with a heavy favorite, Isolate 7-5 on the morning line. But I just loved Miles Ahead's race at Churchill Downs last time. And then Isolate's lone effort there at Churchill, he went off at 3-2 and he finished fourth. So that's always a concern for me where you have a horse that has run like once or twice at a track and didn't run well in those starts, and then he returns there and is bet down to low odds. So I'm going to try to beat the favorite in the Louisville Thoroughbred Society with number 5, Miles Ahead.
Yeah, it would be a nice price, too, 6-1 on the morning line. So we start with a 5-1, a 6-1, and that brings us to the third and final leg of the TwinSpires Triple Play. The Grade 1 Natama Stakes at Woodbine. A win and you're in for the Breeders' Cup Juvenile Fillies. Grade 1, $500,000 purse. What do you think, my friend? Who wins it?
Well, I'll tell you, I like number 6, Wickenheiser. I was going to say Wickenheiser. And
yeah.
And the thing about this filly is, Mike, is that last time in the Catch a Glimpse Stakes, she graduated first time out on July 2nd. Really it was just like, really sort of a little bit of an eye-catching move. I knew she'd be bet off of that race in the Catch a Glimpse. I didn't anticipate her being bet down to 5-2 favoritism. But as opposed to that maiden race where she just sort of like, found clear sailing, was able to duck and weave through, her trip in the Catch a Glimpse was just awful. She got shuffled back at the very start of that race. And granted, the first call says 10th of 12th, but she was dead last right before that first call, and then advanced by a couple of fledgling rivals to be 10th. But she left herself way too much to do. And when she kicked in her move, Luis Contreras and Wickenheiser got swung at least 10 wide. I thought she got floated out. I thought there was a moment there in mid-stretch where she lost interest a little bit being so close to the grandstand. And I think that this Lemon Drop Kid filly is still figuring things out. I thought that was a great educational race to build upon. I sort of like the fact that she ran fifth that day. She closed a ton of ground to be beaten 3.5 lengths in fifth. That's the kind of race that's going to, I believe, inflate her price a little bit in this afternoon, where you have Cairo Consort coming back as the morning line favorite. You have this G. Laurie that's going to take money for Grand Motion, shipping in off a 6th debut win. And I think this race is going to have a little bit of a pace in there. You definitely have Collecting Clatter and Star Candy that are front-running types. And with Kevin Adder having a couple in here that appear well met, this maiden last call for him almost looks like a rabbit. So Wickenheiser is going to also appreciate the added ground being by Lemon Drop Kid out of a Montjuic mare. and is going to, I think, get a reasonable setup. And if she keeps moving forward and gets a better trip, I just, like I said, last time was a ridiculously wide journey for her, and I'm anticipating a better trip and a better result for Wickenheiser today, Mike.
All right, 3 solid horses for you to keep an eye on at TwinSpires later today. That is race number 6 at Churchill, number 9 Pro Occident at 5-1, race 10 at Churchill, number 5 Miles Ahead at 6-1, and race 10 at Woodbine, the Natalma Stakes, number 6 Wickenheiser at odds of 3-1 for James Scully on this morning's segment. And again, we encourage you to head to TwinSpires.com to place those bets. There is no specific TwinSpires Triple Play wager when you go there, but you can bet all 3 of these races and maybe even parlay them at TwinSpires.com. James Scully, appreciate it, my friend, and I know folks are enjoying hearing you on the Brisnet.com call-in show every Thursday at 6 o'clock here on the network, and we'll encourage them to call in and talk some racing with you next Thursday as well.
Well, I would love to hear from them. And Mike, and always a pleasure to come on, and best of luck to you and everybody listening.
All right, James Scully here on HRRN. That is your TwinSpires Triple Play for this Saturday morning. When I come back, Kurt Becker takes you on his weekly stroll through racing history, and then it's time for Dale Romans and Tim Wilkin, this week's edition of I Ask, They Answer. That's going to come your way right around 10:30 Eastern Time. Stay with me. It's the Equine Forum presented by TwinSpires on HRRN.
Race to TwinSpires, where you can unlock a $25 risk-free bet. Just use the code HRRN25 when you sign up. And if your first bet doesn't win, TwinSpires will refund your account up to $25. Wagering on the app is fast with free past performances, insider picks, and power plays every day you wager. TwinSpires. Download the app today to earn your $25 risk-free bet. Void where prohibited. For terms and conditions, visit TwinSpires.com. Must be 18 or older, 21 and older where applicable. For help with a gambling problem, call 1-800-GAMBLER.
Airdrie Stud's Bo Liam has proven to be one of the hottest first-crop sires in central Kentucky. A gorgeous son of the leading young sire Liam's Map, Bo Liam arrived on the national stage with one of the most impressive debuts in the history of Churchill Downs, stopping the clock in 1:08.3, marking the fastest 6 furlongs in history at Churchill. His next 2 races were equally dazzling, as he posted 106 and 107 Beyer speed figures, placing him firmly amongst the fastest 3-year-olds of his generation. The brilliance and support to make it big. Airdrie Stud's Bo Liam. Think about it.
The Royal Palm Meet is just heating up with summer thoroughbred racing at Gulfstream Park. Join us Friday through Sunday for heart-pounding racing excitement and delectable hospitality. Enjoy the races outdoors at our new Carousel Club, or cool off in a private suite, or our trackside restaurant, 10 Palms. For stake schedules, reservations, and ticketing, head to GulfstreamPark.com.
Can you hear it? The world-class thoroughbreds are racing at Remington Park. There's live racing now through December 17th. So don't miss all the action on the track and in the casino. With big wins and great entertainment. Send your heart racing at Remington Park.
It's time now to shine the spotlight on the Darley Taking the Reins Performer of the Week.
25, 800, 825, 800, 825, last call, 825, 800, 825, thank you, 825 and a half, in the back, 800,000.
$800,000, the final bid on hip number 554 at the Keeneland September yearling sale. That's a daughter of Darley Stallion Street Sense, one of several high-priced yearlings by Street Sense in week 1 of that sale, making her your Darley Taking the Reins Performer of the Week. Darley Stallion Street Sense. His yearlings have sold for $500,000, $725,000, and $800,000 at Keeneland September. They're selling so well because they're running so fast. With 5 Grade 1 winning fillies, Street Sense is one of only 3 stallions with at least 7 stakes-winning colts on dirt in 2022. Learn more about Street Sense and all the Darley Stallions by visiting DarleyAmerica.com.
Hello, I'm Junior Alvarado, and I listen to HRRN.
You're listening to the Equine Forum on HRRN, presented by TwinSpires.
Hello, I'm Kurt Becker. Thanks for joining me as I take another stroll through racing history presented by Keeneland. Later today, Churchill Downs will present the Pocahontas Stakes, a win and you're in for the Breeders' Cup Juvenile Fillies. And 35 years ago, a filly won the Pocahontas as the favorite before springing a 30-1 upset at the Breeders' Cup. Her name was Epitome. Foaled on April 21st, 1985, Epitome was a daughter of 1981 Belmont Stakes winner Summing. Her mother was a mare named Honest and True who won the 1980 Fairgrounds Oaks, defeating the reigning champion juvenile filly Smart Angle. Bred by sisters Jessica Bell Nicholson and Bennett Bell and purchased at public auction by their father John A. Bell III, Epitome was sent to Phil Hauswald, age 28, for training. Hauswald, a native of New Albany, Indiana, had worked for future Hall of Famer Shug McGahee, and he had taken out his trainer's license in 1983. Now, in 1987, Hauswald stood on the brink of an incredible year of what would be highs, then lows, then highs again. In the spring of that year, Hauswald had command of a 3-year-old colt named Demons Be Gone, a homebred owned by the Loblolly stable of John Ed Anthony. A winner of the Southwest, the Rebel, and the Arkansas Derby at Oaklawn Park, Demons Be Gone would roll into Churchill Downs as the favorite for the Kentucky Derby. But he would never be a factor, as he bled early in the race and was eased by jockey Pat Day. Demons Be Gone would make one more start that season before taking the rest of the year off. Hauswald would then shift his attention to Epitome, the filly whom the Bell family had entrusted to his care. Epitome's first 2 career starts would come at Belmont Park, and she would finish off the board in each. In her 3rd career outing in August at Saratoga, Epitome would finish runner-up. The winner that day, Winning Colors, who little did anyone realize at the time was destined to win the Kentucky Derby the following year. After a 3rd-place effort at Belmont Park in September, Epitome, now 0 for 4 in her young career, was shipped to Keeneland Racecourse in Lexington, Kentucky. And it was there in mid-October that Epitome scored her first career victory, winning a maiden race at 1 1/16. She would run back 11 days later in the Grade 2 Alcibiades at Keeneland, and with Mike Smith aboard, finish runner-up at odds of 14-1. Epitome had now lost 5 of her 6 career starts, but in less than 2 weeks she had gone from a virtual unknown to a winner at Keeneland and had earned graded stakes place status. On November 8th, Epitome went to Churchill Downs for the Pocahontas Stakes. Her successful month at Keeneland had been enough to convince the crowd of 15,000 to send her to the post as the 3-2 favorite, and she responded by surging from last on the final turn to win under jockey Pat Day. Hauswald and Bell now had a decision to make. Either run back at Churchill 2 weeks later in the Goldenrod or ship to California for the Breeders' Cup. Bell noted that the filly had improved and matured tremendously in the span of the last 45 days. Hauswald agreed and added that Day would be available to ride in California. And so the decision was made. The date was November 21st, 1987. The site was Hollywood Park. Epitome was 30-1, and she was next to last in a 12-horse field with a half-mile left to run. That was when Day began to move her up the rail. She picked up several positions, and with a furlong to go, she needed only to catch Jeannie Jones. Tom Durkin with the call.
And they're coming now inside the final furlong. Jeannie Jones, Shoemaker trying to get her home toward the inside. Epitome is putting in a late run. A 16th to come. Jeannie Jones is staggering. Here comes Epitome on the outside with the final surge, and they hit the wire together. Jeannie Jones and Epitome was right at her neck as they hit the wire. Those two finishing together. Jeannie Jones battling out, and she ran a very game race this afternoon. Epitome coming from far back, and it's a photo finish in the Breeders' Cup Juvenile Filly.
Despite trailing by 5 lengths with 100 yards to go, Epitome had won the Breeders' Cup Juvenile Fillies by a nose, lighting up the tote board and paying $62.80 on a $2 win ticket in the process. Epitome would be named Eclipse Champion 2-year-old filly of 1987, and following her 3-year-old campaign would retire with a record of 5 wins, 5 seconds, and a third from 14 career starts. As a broodmare, she would produce 11 foals, including Essence of Dubai, a $2.3 million Keeneland September yearling, which would become a multiple graded stakes winner. Epitome died in 2004 at the age of 19. Owner John Bell once said of Epitome, quote, "The most important element in a racehorse is its attitude and emotional approach to things around it. In the Army, you call it command presence, that special ingredient exhibited by leaders, and Epitome had it," end quote. We remember Epitome, winner 35 years ago of the Pocahontas Stakes at Churchill Downs on her way to Breeders' Cup glory. Please join me again next week when I take another stroll through racing history presented by Keeneland. For HRRN, I'm Kurt Becker.
And once again, my thanks to Kurt and to Keeneland for making those segments possible each and every week. If you have missed any of Kurt's Stroll Through Racing History segments, all you have to do is head back over to our website, horseracingradio.net. You can check out the special podcast page dedicated to those stories and listen to every single one. There have been some amazing ones. Go back and listen at horseracingradio.net. When I come back, Dale Romans, Tim Wilkin, they will be here. It is this week's edition of I Ask, They Answer. This is the Equine Forum, presented by TwinSpires on HRRN.
Race the TwinSpires, where you can unlock a $25 risk-free bet. Just use the code HRRN25 when you sign up. And if your first bet doesn't win, TwinSpires will refund your account up to $25. Wagering on the app is fast with free past performances, insider picks, and power plays every day you wager. TwinSpires. Download the app today to earn your $25 risk-free bet. Void where prohibited. For terms and conditions, visit TwinSpires.com. Must be 18 or older, 21 and older where applicable. For help with a gambling problem, call 1-800-GAMBLER.
Churchill Downs 14-day September meet runs now through October 2nd, with 11 stakes worth over $3.3 million in purses and maiden special weight purses at $120,000 and allowance races ranging from $127,000 to $141,000. These purses powered by the Kentucky Thoroughbred Development Fund. You are not going to want to miss the September meet at Churchill Downs. The meet will also showcase many horses preparing for the Breeders' Cup and the Grade 3 ACAC, a win and you're in for the Dirt Mile division, and the Grade 2 $400,000 Lucas Classic. For more information, visit churchilldowns.com.
Achieve Equine, makers of Flair Equine nasal strips, brings you innovative, evidence-based products for the health and well-being of your equine athletes, like the new Impact Protection Half Pad from Europe, VIP Equestrian, that provides a superior layer of cushioning for the horse's back. Visit achieveequine.com for more information on the innovative products we offer. That's achieveequine.com. Breathe easy, we've got your back.
Millridge has a history of raising and selling racehorses, with 36 Grade 1 winners since 2000, including 2 Horse of the Years, a Kentucky Derby winner, and 7 Breeders' Cup winners. Spread throughout 5 books at the Keeneland September Yearling Sale, Millridge is offering a group of athletes by leading sires Uncle Mo, Into Mischief, and Curlin, as well as racehorse sires like Twirling Candy, Speightstown, and Constitution, plus yearlings by Oscar Performance, who has made a promising start with his 2-year-olds. Millridge, raising and selling racehorses.
Tenda Equine and Pet Care products have been keeping world-class equine athletes happy and healthy for generations. Keep your equine athlete looking and performing well with Tenda Next Generation Wound and Skin Care Treatment, along with nutritional supplements, leg and muscle care products, salves, hoof care, poultice, topical aids, and grooming products. Visit tendahorse.com today.
A series that just means more, now has even more meaning. The Breeders' Cup Challenge Series.
As an owner, I love the Breeders' Cup Win and You're In series.
Your chance to win an automatic berth to the world stage, playing out in over 3 new regions.
They're off.
West.
They're into the stretch.
Midwest.
Fighting on hard with a furlong to run.
East.
On the far outside, he just kicked it in.
Each with 1 win and you're in race per division.
And a battle at the gate pole.
Where the finish line is just the beginning.
They're off.
Win a regional challenge series race and earn an automatic entry to the Breeders' Cup World Championships at Keeneland on November 4th and 5th.
Automatic berth takes a lot of pressure off.
With pre-entry and entry fees paid. And travel and nominator awards worth thousands. The Breeders' Cup Challenge Series. It just means more.
I'm Manny Franco, and I listen to the Horse Racing Radio Network.
You're listening to the Equine Forum on HRRN, presented by TwinSpires.
Now they're coming. Avy Splatter after Town Cruise with Duke of Hazard. And right down the outside, Ryder Comet. Olympic run of the center. Set piece is getting to work now. The leader remains Town Cruise. Town Cruise on the inside in front. A cavalry charge down the outside. Space Traveler and Ryder Comet. And Raging Bull. But Daisuke Fukumoto stole this year's Rico Woodbine Mile with Town Cruise. 2.5 lengths to Space Traveler. Behind them, March the Arch and Raging Bull the outside. And the time is 1:35.14.
That was Robert Geller, and that was the call of Town Cruise taking the field wire to wire in his Woodbine Mile upset a year ago. How likely is a repeat in today's renewal? Plus, Classic Causeway and Nation's Pride meet in a rubber match in today's Jockey Club Derby Invitational. But is that the most compelling rivalry being renewed this afternoon? And with several positive handle reports and records being set at both the Saratoga and Keeneland yearling sales, is it time for racing's naysayers to just zip it? We'll discuss those topics and much, much more coming up on this week's edition of I Ask, They Answer with trainer Dale Romans and turf writer Tim Wilkin. And it's all presented by the University of Louisville, Equine Industry Program, and the College of Business. And it all starts just 30 seconds from right now.
Learn the business of horses in the world's only accredited equine business program, the University of Louisville Equine Business Program. The University of Louisville has a legacy of excellence educating and developing industry leaders for over 35 years. Classes are taught by industry experts in state-of-the-art facilities located in the heartland of America's equine industry. The University of Louisville Equine Business Program. When it comes to horses, we mean business. For more information, visit business.louisville.edu/equine.
All right, gentlemen, we begin with, and there's certainly plenty to talk about here today, but we're going to begin with a Del Mar topic because Del Mar wrapped up their meet last weekend with Phil D'Amato and Bob Baffert tied at the top of the trainer standings with 19 wins apiece, despite Baffert saddling 63 fewer horses than D'Amato. So, guys, I ask you, and Timmy, I'll come to you first, who had the better meet, Baffert or D'Amato?
Well, you know, if you look just on the numbers, you'd have to say Bob. I mean, he had 76 starts. They both had 4 graded stakes wins. I mean, Phil D'Amato, you know, he's been, I think he's only been training for 10 years, maybe 9. Bob is going to be always think, well, he had the better meet because he's Bob Baffert. And, you know, the numbers don't lie. I mean, 19 wins and 76 starts is pretty darn good. And, you know, but Phil D'Amato, I think this is his 3rd title at Del Mar, if I'm not mistaken. And Bob's, this is his first, you know, sharing it, first one that he's won since 2003. But if I had to say who had the better meet, just going by the numbers, you know, when you saddle 63 less horses than the other guy, I think you got the better meet.
Thanks.
Dale?
Well, I would say if you go by the numbers, strictly by the numbers, Phil D'Amato had a better meet. If you go by the millions of dollars spent in Baffert's barn compared to the numbers of dollars spent in Phil's barn. So I think if you probably put a pencil to it and went dollars in for dollars out, I'm going to go strictly by the numbers and say Phil D'Amato.
Well, I guess we disagree. We agree to disagree on that one.
But we agree it's all about the numbers.
We do agree it's all about the numbers, no doubt about it.
And if you look at money numbers, dollar numbers on the numbers spent compared to what Phil did, it should have taken more than 63 extra starters to have the better meat or have the lesser meat.
Yeah, interesting.
I don't know. Truth of the matter is they both did well. And they both had good meets, and congratulations to both of them. You can't keep Baffert down. We talked about that right off the bench. There he goes.
All right, let me ask you guys this then. Is Bob Baffert 100% back?
Yes, by far 100% back. And, you know, I talked to him a couple of days ago over to sell. He looks good. He's buying horses. He's back.
Yeah, I agree. He's back, too. It'll be interesting to see what happens at the Breeders' Cup, but yeah, I definitely think he's back. I mean, if horse-wise, I don't know if he ever left. I mean, it's he's got. I mean, it'd be interesting to see what Taba does next week at Pennsylvania Derby.
Did anybody really doubt, though, that he wouldn't be back as soon as he stepped back on the backside? The only thing he's got to get behind him now, no, everybody knew he would start up, pick up running. He's too good at what he does. All he's got to do is get this year's Derby behind him, and he's ready to roll again. With these yearlings he's buying over at Keeneland right now, he should be able to run them in the Derby.
Yeah, we certainly have not heard the last of Bob Baffert. I know that's not going to be popular with some people, but it's going to be very popular with a lot of horsemen who have followed his career and befriended him over the years. So that is topic number one. Topic number two, 12 2-year-old fillies are entered in today's Pocahontas at Churchill Downs. 3 trainers, our very own Dale Romans, D. Wayne Lucas, and Pete Vestal are tied for most wins in the race with 3. Unfortunately, Dale does not have a horse in the race this year, but Wayne Lucas does. That is Grade 3 Adirondack winner Naughty Gal, I should say. Dale, I'm going to come to you first. Will the record remain tied after today's race, or will the coach find himself alone atop that list?
This is one record I hope I don't stay tied with, because I'm such a Wayne fan. He's had such a great resurgence this summer that I would love to see him go on and win the Pocahontas and give me a goal to shoot for at time again next year.
You know, it's whenever Wayne enters a horse in a big race now, it's becomes the sentimental favorite for everybody, because he's done a phenomenal job this year. There's no question about that. But Naughty Gal coming into this race off that spin away, which was pretty ugly. I mean, she was beat by 20 lengths. Yeah. And there are some pretty darn nice little 2-year-olds in here that are coming off maiden wins, a whole handful of them. That John Ortiz horse, Just a Warrior, is 2 for 2, and there's a handful of them that are coming up really impressive maiden wins that it wouldn't surprise me if they jump up here. And I think Wayne's up against it a little bit, but his horse Naughty Gal does have the experience, and she was impressive in her first 2 starts. If you give her a pass on the spin away, maybe she may be right there. But I would vote against.
Well, I mean, I'm not saying she's going to win. I'd like to see her win, and then she can. I think if you look back in history, you'll never see a horse trainer that has done what Wayne does. They get beat 23 lengths one time and come back and win by 5. He figures out something to tweak or change, and as long as they've got the quality, he seems to be able to pull it out of them.
Timmy, what went wrong in that spin away?
She just didn't run. Simple as that.
Sometimes I'd rather see them get beat 23 lengths and think that there's, that's not their race, and you just regroup and run them back instead of getting beat 4 lengths and just not being good enough. That was not her. That was not her. She didn't show up that day. So if Wayne got her back in this race today that quickly, then it was something minor, and then something didn't go right for her that day. And I think I would like her more getting beat 23 than 4.
Interesting. Dale, is there a little bit of a soft spot in your heart here, because Naughty Gal is out of a Spanish Steps mare? We know Spanish Steps is somebody who, as a stallion, is pretty special to you because he is the sire of your Breeders' Cup winner, Little Mike.
Little Mike, I didn't think anybody bred a Spanish Steps mare, so yeah, I do like that.
Yeah, I happened to pick that up as I was looking through the past performances, and I knew I had to bring that up to you at some point.
Yeah, that's pretty strong. Spanish Steps is a very well-bred horse. He just didn't get much chance as opportunity as a race sire. But Little Mike, pretty good. I know he's had almost $4 million in earnings anyway, because we know Mike made that much.
Yeah, pretty cool stuff. All right, moving on to the third topic, and this is our right or wrong segment. It is time for this weekly edition. We'll have it every week for you now, where I present Dale and Tim with a few statements, and they get to tell me if those statements are right or wrong.
What do you think? Right or wrong?
All right, our man Nick Zito helping us out. Guys, number 1, we have 3 here for you today. Number 1, in today's Iroquois at Churchill, recent maiden winner Echo Again was made the 2-1 morning line favorite over undefeated Grade 2 Saratoga Special winner Damon's Mound. Tim, I'll come to you first. Is that right or wrong?
Yeah, right or wrong? Am I right? What do you think?
I think it's wrong. I think it's wrong. I mean, Damon's Mound is, the only horse in here with a graded stakes win. He won the special. Only horse with 2 wins. Echo Again was super impressive winning that debut at Saratoga. Might have been one of the maybe the most impressive maiden winner up there at Saratoga, and there were several of those because it's Asmussen, because it's a gun runner. Of course, I mean that's why he's 2-1. But Damon's Mound, comes from Michelle Lovell, little known trainer, has done nothing wrong in his 2 starts. I really like that horse, and I think that's the horse that I would pick in this race. This is the first time they're all going a mile and 16, first time 2 turns. But Damon's Mound has done nothing wrong until he does. I'm staying with him.
Yeah, there's nothing wrong with staying with him. He's a quality horse. She's done a great job with him, and hopefully she just continues on and makes the Derby Trail. It'll be exciting for her. But Steve's horse, I mean, if you took Steve and the pedigree away, I don't think he's the favorite. But it's an awful strong pedigree that we've seen before, and just gets better and better. So I don't know. Who cares what the odds are on the program? They're nice horses, and somebody's going to come out of this race with a big future ahead of them.
All right, we're going to go to Dale first on this next topic because he knows a thing or two about pulling off upsets in 1-mile turf races. Town Cruise upset last year's Woodbine Mile at odds of 8-1 and is back again to defend his title later today. He is 0 for 3 since that win and hasn't even hit the board in those 3 outings. Dale, somehow he finds a way to pull off an upset and a huge shocker later today.
Yeah, right. Am I right?
He could. I'm not going to say he's right or wrong. I think he could. He's an awfully talented horse in the back form, and I don't think he'd be showing up in here if he wasn't doing really well, going the right way. So, possible.
Well, I think it's Mission Impossible. See what I did there, Town Cruise, Mission Impossible. See what I did there?
Well played.
That was very good.
I don't see it. When he won that race last year, he had basically had the lead to himself, and he's going to have pressed today because he got the likes of Marquez gets smoking out there, and he'll go in there. And this horse is going to have to do a lot more work if he's going to pull it off again. Last year when he won, it was the course was wet, and he gets he's not as good on the firm ground, and he's gotten beaten pretty good in his last 2, so he'd have to have a complete turnaround to get this done, and I don't see it. I'm sorry, but the 7-year-old Town Cruise, I think, is risky business in this race.
He's staying up all night coming up with these little one-liners. That's pretty good.
That's pretty strong, Tim Wilkin. All right, one more topic here for right or wrong. Saratoga, Del Mar, Colonial Downs, and Kentucky Downs all produced record meets this year. The first few days of the Keeneland September yearling sale also shattered records, as did Saratoga with Fasig-Tipton a few weeks back. With all of this positivity, it's time for racing naysayers to just shut it.
Yeah, right or wrong. Okay.
Dale?
It's been a long time coming that they've quieted down on that. We got national trends going the right direction. We got record purses everywhere. We got good racing. People showing up at the races. This game's not dead. You stole my point of the day by this question. No, I was going to discuss that at the end of the show. But this is, I've been saying it for a while. You can go back and listen to our tapes. The game's not dead. There's a lot of naysayers, but there is an ever sport, that Michael Jordan retired, basketball was dead. Football, concussions, football's dead. There's naysayers. The naysayers have too loud a voice today when they can sit behind a screen and type and not speak, knowing who they are.
I agree with that 100%, Dale, because, the naysayers are always going to try to find something to naysay about. They're not going to come out and say anything good about the industry because they don't like to do that. They want to tear it down, and these are the faceless, the nameless people that on the Twitters that we've talked about this before. They don't put their name up there. They just sit in their basements and rip the sport in any way they can. I mean, will these people come out and talk about what great meets there were at Saratoga and Del Mar, Kentucky Downs, and how the sales are going to Keeneland? No, they won't. But those things are just a positive for the sport, and how can you not think that it's going in the right direction?
It's true. I find most naysayers don't want to sit down and debate. They just want to make a statement where it can't be questioned.
Yep. All right, well, we're going to bring you right or wrong every single week on this segment. Now, our good friend Nick Zito with the soundbite there helping us out. We will do that again next Saturday. Guys, one more topic before we get to our West Point of the Week, and Dale just kind of gave us a hint of what his is going to be about. But Classic Causeway and Nation's Pride are going to meet in a rubber match in today's Grade 3 Caesars Jockey Club Derby Invitational. Bell's the one, and Sconson will go at it for the 8th time in the Open Mind Stakes at Churchill. So, Timmy, I'll come to you first. Which is the more compelling rivalry?
Well, to me, I like the sprinters. I mean, this is, the Bell's the one has finished ahead of Sconson, I think, 4 of the first 6. And that's the kind of rivalry people like to see. They're going to focus on those 2 horses to see who is better than the other. And I've been a fan of Bell's the One for a long time. Neil Peston has done such a phenomenal job with her. And the other one, Classic Causeway with Kenny Big Peak and Nation's Pride's from Charlie Appleby. It's as a rivalry goes, yeah, they've had the 2 races. And but to me, it's the other one. I mean, I know that Nation's Pride, they're bringing Frankie Dettori in to ride this one. He rode the Nation's Pride in the Belmont race. It wasn't at Saratoga. So there's an interesting part of that. The Europeans versus the U.S. But to me, I like the sprinters all day.
I'll agree with you on this. And both guys are good friends of mine, both trainers. Greg Foley's been my closest running mate for the last 40 years, literally. And that's been good to watch. It's been fun. It's like old school. I don't think 2 races a rivalry makes. So maybe after this one, if they can both run 1-2 or something, then we got a little rivalry to talk about on the 3-year-old turf horses. But I'm going with the Phillies sprinting. I think they're both good fillies. It's been fun to watch. I've watched every time they've run against one another. I've probably watched Sconson's every race she's ever run. And it's been a fun rivalry, and both of those trainers are good friends, so it's fun to watch.
All right, we're going to find out later today if Sconson or Bell's the One gets the victory there, and, of course, that good rivalry, if you will, after just 2 starts up in New York with Classic Causeway and Nation's Pride. All right, guys, down to the final segment. Time now to give Dale and Tim the opportunity to make one final point. It is the West Point of the Week, and it's all presented by West Point Thoroughbreds. Remember that you can experience the lifestyle of thoroughbred racehorse ownership with the gold standard in racing partnerships for over 30 years, and Dale will certainly attest to that. It is West Point Thoroughbreds. All you have to do is text HORSE to 66866 to learn about ownership. That's HORSE to 66866 to learn about ownership with West Point Thoroughbreds. They are the gold standard in racing partnerships, and don't forget that message and data rates may apply. All right, guys, here you go. Timmy, we'll go to you first. It is time for your parting shot. What is your West Point of the Week?
I just spent the last week at Kentucky Downs working with the incomparable Jenny Reese in the publicity department, and had a great time down there. I loved the place, and what impressed me most was the performance given by trainer Mike Maker. Won his 7th training title, set a record with 12 wins, went north of $2 million for another record. Everything he did was right down there. Congratulations to him, and congratulations to Kentucky Downs for a phenomenal meet.
Yeah, since you kind of stole the show out from under me, I'm just going to make it short and sweet. I'm going to make it short and sweet. That the oldest and greatest game in America is alive and well, and don't write it off yet. And if there's some naysayers that want to come on here and debate sometime, we need to work that in.
All right,
I
there
hear
it is.
you on that.
Well said. Dale Romans, Tim Wilkin. We do it all over again next Saturday, same time. Appreciate it, guys. Enjoy the weekend.
All right, thanks Phil.
Mike.
All right, if you have a topic that you want to hear Dale and Tim debate, all you have to do is email those topics to me. That's mike@horseracingradio.net, and I will go ahead and try to work those in for you over the next week or 2. Just go ahead and shoot me an email, mike@horseracingradio.net. That is I Ask, They Answer. It is all presented by the University of Louisville Equine Industry Program in the College of Business. I'm back with more. This is the Equine Forum on the Horse Racing Radio Network.
Each year, local thoroughbred farms and other members of the equine community team up with Keeneland to grant wishes for critically ill children in the local community, such as 6-year-old Rusty Bowling.
In February of 2020, he was complaining of some back and some neck pain, and we went to the doctor. We were admitted, and within 3 days, we found out that he had stage 4 high-risk neuroblastoma. He went on to do 6 rounds of chemotherapy, 2 bone marrow transplants, 14 rounds of radiation, and 6 months of immunotherapy. And we've been in remission since October.
My wish is a bass boat.
Since it began, Make-A-Wish Day at Keeneland has raised $1.1 million for Make-A-Wish Ohio, Kentucky, and Indiana, enough to make more than 130 wishes come true. We hope you'll join us for this year's Make-A-Wish Day at Keeneland on Thursday, October 13th.
Thank you for making wishes like mine come true.
70 organizations, 160 facilities, 7,800 horses, 1 accreditation. The Thoroughbred Aftercare Alliance is the only accrediting body in thoroughbred aftercare and is supported by all aspects of the thoroughbred industry. To learn more or to support the TAA, visit thoroughbredaftercare.org.
And now an important message from Jerry Rice.
As a career wide receiver, I've been hit hard. But no training nor practice prepared us for the devastation of COVID-19. Thankfully, there is hope. Even with multiple vaccines available, we still have to work together until everyone is safe. We all win when we unite to prevent.
For more information, visit unitetoprevent.org.
Horse players, in 2020, Canterbury Park introduced a 10% takeout traditional 50-cent pick 5. That's the lowest takeout on the planet. This season, in addition to that low takeout pick 5, Canterbury offers a 10% takeout pick 4, beginning with the first race each day. Again, the lowest takeout in horse racing. Canterbury Park, we race Wednesday, Thursday, and Saturday at 5 p.m. Central and Sunday at 1. CanterburyPark.com, home of the 10% takeout.
Trainer Talk, presented by Fasig-Tipton.
Please join me in welcoming Hall of Fame trainer Todd Pletcher.
Hall of Fame trainer Nick Zito on Trainer Talk. Welcome Hall of Famer Bob Baffert to the program. Hall of Fame trainer Shug McGahee, nice enough to spend some time with us. Hall of Fame trainer Bill Mott here on Trainer Talk. Dual Hall of Fame trainer Mark Cassie.
Trainer Talk, the biggest names in horse racing. Wednesdays, 6 to 7 p.m. Eastern on Sirius 216, XM 204, and streaming live at horseracingradio.net.
This is Florent Giroux, and you are listening to HRRN.
You're listening to the Equine Forum on HRRN, presented by TwinSpires.
It is Portfolio Company and Coinage, taking them around the far turn 1-2. These two with Grafton Street coming 3 wide after them. Then Dubowie Legend in behind horses. Dakota Gold to the inside. Modern Games is now moving on the far outside. He's kicked it in and he's closing down the center of the course with 1 furlong to run. Grafton Street to catch. Modern Games on the outside. Closing that gap, Dakota Gold and Slipstreamer next, but it's Modern Games. Modern Games will win the Juvenile Turf. Under the wire clear. Tis the Bomb came flying late. Then came McKinnon, followed by Grafton Street and Dakota Gold.
Welcome back to the Equine Forum, presented by TwinSpires. Larry Colmus with the call of last year's Breeders' Cup Juvenile Turf at Del Mar. A victory by Modern Games, who returns in today's Woodbine Mile. A win and you're in for the Breeders' Cup Mile, hoping to punch a return trip to Keeneland coming up November 4th and 5th. Of course, we will be there as well as your exclusive radio home of the Breeders' Cup World Championships here on HRRN. You can head over to our website to check out a complete Breeders' Cup Week broadcast schedule. But the only place you'll hear the Breeders' Cup on radio, every single race, is with us right here on HRRN. You know, Modern Games is, look, he's should be the 7-5 favorite. He deserves to be the favorite in here, but this is not a walkover for him, not like the Breeders' Cup Juvenile Turf was last year either. He has won a Group 1 and was second in a Group 1 last time out in 4 tries since winning the Juvenile Turf last year. So he's in pretty good form. He deserves to be the favorite. The horse that catches my eye is Ivar. Ivar is a horse that ran in the Breeders' Cup Mile last year. He finished behind Space Blues. He only has one start here in 2022, but he kept really good company last year. Ran in the Breeders' Cup Mile at Keeneland back in 2020 as well. Finished fourth that day, only beaten 2 lengths by Order of Australia. So Ivar has a lot of quality. Came back and won a race as a heavy favorite, a race he should have won at Indiana. And now he comes to this spot, and really curious about Ivar. Looking forward to seeing him in action under Joe Talamo later today. Don't forget that your Blood Horse Magazine subscription is now also including a free Blood Horse Plus membership. Blood Horse Plus provides exclusive content, which also includes a daily detailed stakes winner section, Fox Sports and Blood Horse branded weekly programs that showcase the thoroughbred industry's upcoming races and recapping recent stakes races, behind-the-scenes videos and interviews, and on-demand access to deeper horse statistics. You can subscribe now to Blood Horse Magazine and tablet and enjoy a free Blood Horse Plus membership. That is a $50 value, and you can do that by going to bloodhorse.com/subscribe. Well, what a day, right? I mean, what a day in thoroughbred racing. Yes, huge day in New York at Belmont at Aqueduct. I saw some people complaining about the new abbreviation in the PPs, too. It doesn't really make a lot of sense to me either. I understand they do that for other meets where, you know, for example, Oak Tree, right? Isn't it a different abbreviation in the PPs for Oak Tree when they run at Santa Anita, and then when it's just Santa Anita, they have the different abbreviation in the PPs. To me, it should just be AQW, but it is what it is. But you have the big day up there in New York. You also have a big day at Churchill. Those win-in-your-in races not designated as win-in-your-ins, meaning that the winner of the Pocahontas, the Iroquois, not going to get an automatic bid to the Breeders' Cup World Championships. But, look, the winners of those races are going to have their sights set on Keeneland November 4th and 5th, and then you have the 3 win-in-your-ins up at Woodbine as well. So, huge, huge day. We've talked about all of that. We look back on the Keeneland Sale, which was a massive first week for them. Congratulations to the entire team there. Boy, what a weekend. Let's go get it done. For my producer, Lee Delapina, in our Lexington, Kentucky studio, for Chauncey handling all of our social media this morning, and for all of my guests for taking time to be with me on this show here this morning, including Kurt Becker for putting together that weekly stroll through racing history. I'm Mike Penna. Thanks for listening to this edition of the Equine Forum, presented by TwinSpires. Back all next week with special programming. See the schedule at horseracingradio.net and check out the podcast of this show if you missed any of this program here this morning. Talk to you next week. In the meantime, I told you, we day. Bring on the Patriots. Go Steelers.